What's up, San Diego? Happy Wednesday to all of you. A little bit cloudy today. Not as great weather as we had the last couple of days. And man, it was a nice day yesterday throughout Southern California. I drove up the coast and then over inland a little bit to Cal State Fullerton last night to call the USD Cal State Fullerton baseball game. That was a good time. USD ended up coming up a little bit short, but it was beautiful weather. It was hot up there. I had my hoodie on throughout the day, and I went up there and I tried to, I didn't have the proper attire underneath the hoodie to be able to take the hoodie off. So I was like rolling up my sleeves and everything. I was just sweating up there in Fullerton for the first, couple of innings before the sun finally went down. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm excited for Padres baseball to start tomorrow. This is like Christmas Eve. It feels like Christmas Eve. I've been more excited for the Padres in the past. The 2023 season, I think, was the most excited people were, especially after what 22 was, and having Juan Soto on the team and a lot of the big stars. I mean, the energy surrounding 2023 was big, but I'm starting to feel that buildup. I'm excited to be out at Baja Ricks tomorrow to talk with all of you before opening day. I think the fact that opening day is a little bit earlier as a time. Now, I prefer the 5:40 starts for all sporting events. But I think the fact that the game's a little bit earlier, maybe has juiced up my excitement. We don't have to wait as long in the day come Thursday, come tomorrow. But it's going to be a good time. I can't wait to start talking about Padres baseball. I can't wait to start talking about actual results. I mean, today's like the final day of having to preview the season. And what are they going to do here and the roster, and can they do X, Y, Z? Finally, last time we get to it's a preview. We're from this point forward. I mean, tomorrow's going to be a lot of opening day traditions and things like that. But from this point forward, we're going to be talking about actual baseball the rest of the week. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. Saw somebody in the chat want to say we're going to get smacked by Atlanta. Go eat a breakfast burrito, dude, and change your attitude. Evan needs to go eat a breakfast burrito. Calm down, buddy. Let's go. You got to be excited for the season. So yesterday I was driving up to Fullerton. I got to listen to the majority of Gwynn and Chris. It's great to have all three of those guys in studio together. It's just such a fun dynamic. I was laughing my ass off when Scraby was talking about his bank dealings. I mean, I was dying on the way up to Fullerton. And, I appreciate the shout out from Tony. I really appreciated that. I know he had some beef with some of the sports takes that I had on social media. Again, that wasn't just directed at San Diego State. It was San Diego as a whole. But it was cool to listen. I got the signal all the way up to Mission Viejo on Interstate 5. It was great. And then flipped over on the Odyssey app. So you can listen to us worldwide on the Odyssey app, which is great. But I drove up to Fullerton yesterday. I love being part of the USD baseball program. Unfortunately, the results are not quite there this year. They'll be against Pepperdine this weekend. But, something happened yesterday I thought was pretty cool that I wanted to share with you guys. I mean, we're up there at Cal State Fullerton, very traditional baseball program. They haven't been as good as they've been in the past. They're getting better with Jason Dietrich as their head coach in the last couple of years. He's now in his fourth season. But a storied program that has produced a lot of Padres. Like guys like Phil Nevin, Mark Kotze, Cal State Fullerton guys. It's a beautiful ballpark up there in Fullerton. They take great care of the ballpark. It's kind of cool. It's hidden between a bunch of pine trees out in right field. They got this net that has a bunch of advertising on it, which is kind of gives you a minor league feel to it. But it's a great place to go up there and watch a game. It's a nice stadium at Goodwin Field. So I was up there. I was up there last night, and throughout the night there was a individual that had some special needs that was tracking baseballs all day long. I mean, he was hunting down every single baseball, and I'm calling the game. He's having a great time. He's talking to a lot of people, and at one point in the game, he comes up to me. He's a Cal State Fullerton fan, and he goes, "Hey, buddy, I got this for you." And then he hands me one of the game balls, And then he was like, "Do you like it?" And I'm trying to call the game. I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." So he gave me a nice little gift. So I have this Big West game ball I really appreciate from my new friend Chris from Cal State Fullerton. Fullerton comes back down to San Diego later in the year, and I'm sure he'll be down at the game, which is super cool. So we're very nice of him to give me one of the balls. And he goes out there and gets a lot of the foul balls, and then he starts handing them to people throughout the stadium. So I got one yesterday, which is really cool. One of my friends who pitched at Irvine said, I needed another one because he doesn't have this Big West logo for a baseball. I said he can have it. But I appreciate the gift from Chris. Great hospitality up there at Fullerton. Kind of a lighthearted story for you guys. I thought it was pretty cool. Game itself did not go the way of the USD Toreros. I went up there and again today on the show we're going to preview all of major. We're going to get a full preview of Major League Baseball. We're going to preview the leagues. We're going to talk about a lot of things that involve the San Diego Padres. Obviously, what do the Padres have to do in order to make the postseason? There's a lot of things that the Padres have to do in order to make the postseason. I think there's a lot of things that need to go right, and there's a lot of things that can't go wrong if the Padres want to make the postseason. It's going to be a tough battle. I mean, you start looking at a lot of these previews, and so far there isn't a website, at least in the major ones, ESPN, MLB, that have picked the Padres to make the playoffs. Everybody's sexy pick to make the playoffs right now, the NL West, aside from the Dodgers, which is a different thing, is the Arizona Diamondbacks. I mean, that's your real competition this year. We've talked about already on the show. But there's a lot of things that need to go right for the Padres in order to make the playoffs. Another big looming question for them that we'll talk about later is the biggest unknown of the season. And the biggest unknown of the season is the bottom three spots in the lineup. We talk about all the time that the bottom three in the order, are really not the greatest for most baseball teams. But for playoff teams, they got guys like Jake Cronenworth batting seventh, just for perspective. And I mentioned that last year on opening day. If the Padres are going to make the playoffs, they got Cronenworth batting seventh on the playoff lineup. And not to say that Jake Cronenworth's not a good player. That's just to say that that's the kind of caliber player that's in the 7, 8, 9 spot on these playoff teams. And who knows with the trade deadline, everything like that. But that's going to be a big question that needs to be answered. We're going to preview again all the divisions. We got bold predictions, whether or not I'm going to buy or sell those. I think there was an interesting article today as we continue our conversation about NIL and the transfer portal and now revenue sharing. And the thing is, it's really nice. I thought, and when I was driving up to Fullerton yesterday, I listened to the entire interview that Gwen and Chris had with Mark Ziegler. That was a great interview, that really informative on, why San Diego State, doesn't have the big whale that they thought they would have, why they have the amount of money that they have, what their revenue share or what their NIL collective has and everything like that. Really explains it from a perspective for a lot of people to understand. And going off of that, today, Ross Dellinger of Yahoo put out an article about how Power 4 schools are concerned that certain conferences that do not have football are going to outspend them in college basketball. And it puts them at an unfair advantage that they cannot compete with some mid-majors. Now, that being said, the conference in particular that they're talking about is the Big East. And the Big East conference is, you can argue that they're kind of a power conference. I mean, I don't think anybody's shedding a tear, for UConn or for Xavier Villanova. I mean, Villanova can get the television contract that they get from the Big East for basketball, and instead of investing into football like Duke has to do, because that is the biggest moneymaker for almost every university, they can, instead of taking that $20 million and putting 14 to football, Villanova can now take $10 million and put it in basketball. They take the $14 million and put it into basketball. Where all the other power schools like Duke, and I'm using them in particular because they're a basketball school in a Power 4 conference that needs to focus on football as well, they have to spread the love with other teams that also matter to the university. So now with Duke and a budget of $4 million, they're going to get outspent by maybe an Xavier or Georgetown, and they say all of a sudden it's a problem. Oh, now it's a problem. Now it's like, well, this is not fair. We'll talk about that later on, too. I went up to Fullerton and I forgot about a certain fan that was up there. They have this super fan. His name is Keith. There's an article on him about how he used to be the super fan at UC Irvine. And he ends up getting banned from being the super fan at Irvine. I'm glad he's found a new home at Cal State Fullerton. He is a not so tall individual. He's about 5'9". He's got long rocker hair. I mean, he's 61 now. He used to be, he's been doing this for 2 decades, but he found baseball to be a void for his previous life. And he goes out and just lives, eats, breathes Cal State Fullerton baseball. And he just sits there and screams the whole time. He like bangs his head, he rocker style with all his hair flowing up and down. It's pretty crazy. I remember him when he used to do the Irvine, when he used to be a big Irvine supporter. Poor Keith, he got a little bit too crazy at Irvine. He got on the field one time after Mike Gillespie won a championship, won his 1,000th game. Wasn't allowed on the field. He got kicked off the field. Then he got into it with some admin personnel with Irvine on the road when they banned him from going to the games. Now he's found a spot at Cal State Fullerton. It was, I mean, he just yells. He's got nicknames for every kid. He's just super into college baseball, and most notably Cal State Fullerton. He'll be here in town on a Tuesday when they play local teams. But it was kind of a fun experience yesterday, going up there and calling a game again. And a thanks to Chris, my new friend, that gave me a baseball. We talked about it, and I want to get more into it. We're going to get to your previews as we go on, but what do the Padres have to do in order to make the postseason? We got a lot to talk about on that. That's what we're going to answer when we come back as we lead you up to opening day tomorrow. Excited for Padres baseball. If you want to weigh in, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. I got the answer for you. What do the Padres have to do in order to make the postseason? We'll talk about that when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 10:18 on a Wednesday morning, leading up to tomorrow with opening day. Can't wait to be a part of that. We're excited to be with all of you tomorrow at Baja Rick's at 176th Avenue across from the Hard Rock as we celebrate opening day. Bennett Woods will broadcast beginning at 6 a.m., followed by myself, Braden Surprenant, and the Braden Surprenant Show until noon. We'll have deals on Coors Light, Blue Moon, Topo Chico, plus a special breakfast menu, and $10 footlong TJ Dogs. Special Blowfish Tequila Premium Margaritas also tomorrow. Join 97 through the Fan at Baja Rick's from 6 a.m. to noon tomorrow for opening day. We'll have wall-to-wall coverage of the Padres opening day starting at 6 a.m. With Ben and Woods. I'll be on live at Baja Rick's from 10 to noon, and then throwing it in the building inside Petco Park to the Padres pregame show is Sam Levitt from the loft of the Western Metal Supply Company building. He'll take you up to about 1 o'clock when Jesse Agler and Tony Gwynn Jr. will have the ball game for the first game of 2025, which will be a fun time. And it should be a great season for the San Diego Padres. I have high expectations, not the highest of expectations, but still high expectations for the ball club. I think the Padres have high expectations for themselves as well. And after the ball game, be sure to tune into the post-game show as you're driving home from opening day with Sam Levitt, and then Chris Ello and Matt Scraby will finish off the day. And hopefully it's a great victory Thursday on opening day for the Padres against the Atlanta Braves. Chris Sale going for the Bravos against our Michael King, an opening day starter. We'll figure out who the third starter in the rotation will be probably later on in the week. And I don't know, there is some Mike Schilt availability later today that Sam Levitt will be at. So hopefully we might get some more information on who the number 3 starter is. Again, it's either going to be Randy Vasquez or Kyle Hart. I'm leaning more towards Kyle Hart. It could be a timing thing with spring training that might make it Randy Vasquez, but we'll see what they decide to do with Vasquez and Hart. Maybe it's Vasquez so they can replace him with Darvish when he comes back. Whenever that may be. But should be a fun day tomorrow. I'm excited for opening day. I want to hear your excitement as well. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Give us a call what your feelings are about the Padres. Padres a playoff team? I think they are. I think they're on paper, they're good enough to be a playoff team, but there's a lot of things that I think have to go right in order for the Padres to make the playoffs. And there are some things that definitely cannot go wrong if the Padres want to make the playoffs. Today's going to be a big preview day with a lot of different previews. We're going to start east and then work our way out west with the American League and the National League, and then go back and forth. And our last one will be, of course, the National League West. And we got a lot of bold predictions for each division. Whether or not I'm buying or selling those, we'll have winners and last place, and who's going to be the most valuable player, who's going to be a breakout player in the division. And we'll talk about that throughout the entire morning and afternoon to get you really a sense of where everybody else is in Major League Baseball right now, too, because it's more than just, obviously, the San Diego Padres. And when you play everybody, you're going to see all these teams eventually, either in person at Petco Park or watching on TV or listening on the radio when they are on the road, unless you make some of the road trips as well. I highly encourage that, by the way. I've done that a couple of times now where you make a trip with the Padres, not like physically flying with the team, but, finding a road trip that the Padres go on. It's kind of fun to watch games as a fan on the road because when you show up, you get a lot more love from the players in terms of interaction just because there's not a lot of you usually there on the road. It's good to see friendly jerseys and T-shirts on the road for these guys. So, and it's a good time to make a trip out of it and go check out a new city. I wanted to do that with Boston last year, but it didn't work with my schedule. I'm going to try to do that again next year. And then every time I've always wanted to watch. I went to Wrigley Field last year, and I've always wanted to watch the Padres play at Wrigley. I watched Atlanta. Absolutely shell the Cubs. In that particular game that I went to last year at Wrigley Field. But they always got to play them like the first week of the year, second week of the year in April, super early when it's cold and it's hard to just, make a trip instead of a summer trip. But some of those destination cities are kind of cool, or cities that you haven't checked out before. The sports trips I'm super in on sports trips. We did that for the Yankee series a couple of years ago. It was super fun to go out, check out Yankee Stadium, did the tour, stayed in New York there for a 3-game series. Highly recommend doing that, especially checking out some of the other ballparks in Major League Baseball. None of them are as good as Petco, of course. But for the Padres, again, this year, I think they're a playoff team. But today, as we were, doing research on a lot of teams to get you a full preview of the Major League Baseball season, today's the day that everybody puts out their predictions for the year. Not only a preview, but who they think's going to win each division, who's going to make the wild card, who's the World Series favorite. A lot of that is the Los Angeles Dodgers right now. But when you look at all of these playoff predictions, and I looked at MLB.com, and I looked at ESPN.com, and I'm looking at CBS Sports right now, there's not a lot of people, analysts, writers, experts that are picking the San Diego Padres to make the playoffs. In fact, MLB.com did not have the Padres making the playoffs. ESPN did not have the Padres making the playoffs. CBS Sports didn't have the Padres making the playoffs. And they've all relatively have picked the same teams. I mean, it's almost, why even play the season? The Arizona Diamondbacks are a favorite to make the playoffs out of the National League West, not named the LA Dodgers. The Philadelphia Phillies, New York Mets are expected to make it out of the East, assuming they don't win the division. And if one of those teams do, then Atlanta is in the playoffs. And those are your teams that are in the postseason. For most experts, analysts, writers, and people around Major League Baseball. So that asks the question, what do the Padres have to do in order to make the postseason? I predicted right now, I think they win 86 games this year. Last year, I thought they'd win 86, and they ended up winning 93 or whatever it was. I mean, they got over 90, which is insane. Or no, they got close to, they got high 80s, whatever. But they did a lot better than I thought they were going to be. 93 games, that's what it was. This year, I think about 86 could get you in. I think the playoffs, I think the National League's going to be very good. But a couple of things that have to go right for the Padres. And I don't think a lot of them have to do with other teams, and this is just strictly focusing on us. Michael King needs to be able to build off of last year. The starting rotation right now for the Padres, the top 3 are good, and it was the top 4. Obviously, Yu Darvish being healthy is going to be a major issue for the Padres this season. If he is not healthy, that really sets this starting rotation back a little bit. Now, Arizona lost Jordan Montgomery yesterday to the season, but they still got some depth in Arizona that can win games. But for the Padres, it's going to be difficult for them if they don't have Yu Darvish because of that starting rotation. And so you need to have guys like King continue to do what he did last year. Nick Pivetta needs to have a good year. I think overall, you look at a lot of the star players, I think a lot of the star players are going to be okay. And Fernando's going to play well, and I think Manny's going to play well, and Xander's going to play well. Jackson Merrill, obviously. You really need some production out of that bottom 3 spots in the batting order. They cannot be automatic outs and put more pressure on the top of the order. They don't need everyone in the bottom half to hit, but they need a Yuli Gurriel, a Gavin Sheets, a Jose Iglesias. They need one of those teams or one of those players to have a good year. They need to hit on one. I think if they hit on one, they could be a playoff team. I think the bullpen is pretty much squared away. I think you're in a pretty good spot there. But they need one of those guys to hit, and you could use a good season out of one of the guys platooning, especially in left field, because you got a hole in left field and you got a hole at catcher. in terms of overall offensive production. I I don't know how long Jason Hayward's going to be on the team. I think he's in for veteran experience, but you need to have one of the three guys on the bench be able to have a good year. Because the last 2 years that the Padres have been able, last two times the Padres made the playoffs, they've caught lightning in a bottle with some players that have been able to get them to the promised land. Last year was especially with Jurickson Profar and with Donovan Solano and with David Peralta. I mean, those are players that were not expected to do a lot that went out there and did a really good job. I think Brandon Lockridge could have a really good year for the Padres if he gets some playing time. But it's all those adding on the fringes players that need to show up and play for the Padres in order for them to make the playoffs. I think with how competitive the National League is, I think their records are not going to be as inflated as teams in the American League. Teams in the American League are going to win, I think, more games because they're going to be playing against lesser competition for the majority of the season. I think the National League is going to beat itself up. That's why I think 86 can get you into the playoffs, but you're only going to be a 6 in the playoffs at that. And the reality of the situation is it's coming down to Arizona and San Diego, and that needs to be the matchup. That needs to be the matchup that you're looking at. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. You got people in the chat. Prolific thinks the Padres are going to win 96 games this year. I think that's a high expectation for the Padres at 96 wins. I think that'd be great, but I don't think they're going to win 96 games. If they win 90 games, they're definitely in the postseason. But I think 90 games is going to be hard to reach if you're the San Diego Padres. What do you guys think? We're going to get some of your phone calls when we come back. Jamie, well, please wait on hold. We'll get to you. Plus, start getting a look at the East, the American League and National League East preview. What the Padres competition might be in the National League and some of the previews for the American League when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 10:36 on a Wednesday, opening day eve, if you will. I saw the morning show claim it as such. Welcome to the Braden Surprenant experience, as Chris Ella likes to call it. I texted Scraby yesterday during that. I thought that was hilarious. They were talking about it, and both Tony and Scraby were like, I don't know if he really wants it to be called the Braden Surprenant experience. And
just like Scraby doesn't want it to be called the Chronicles, but here we are.
Here we are. I embrace the deal. I'm not going to change that for branding purposes. It is going to be the Braden Surprenant show. But the Braden Surprenant experience, Chris likes to name things. He had the Entercom Empire that turned into the Odyssey Palace. The guy likes naming things. Maybe you should rename our softball team on Wednesdays, which I will not be participating in. I blew out my hamstring on Monday playing in those 4 softball games. And it's not as bad as I've popped my hamstring 4 times, twice in my left leg and twice in my right leg, all rounding second base. So I should probably not do that as quick as I've done in the past. But that being said, it's not black and blue. It's the least amount of pull that I've ever had when I've pulled it. I pulled it way worse when I was younger, before everybody starts calling me old Johnny in the chat. And I hurt my quad like 2 weeks before that anyway, but I'll be back and ready to go, unlike Johnny, who's still on the IL. So I digress on that. We want to get to your phone calls. Jamie, Scott, and Owen, we're going to get to you right now. If you want to join the show, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We're going to ask everybody tomorrow about how many number of wins you think the Padres will get, but I'll take those today as well. Prolific, the great in the chat, said 96 wins. We had a couple other people in the chat say 90 wins. I have him at 86. I think that barely gets him in the playoffs, but I think Keith Law said 84 and in third place. Again, the battle for the Padres right now making the playoffs is the Padres Diamondbacks race. Forget about LA. Stop talking about them. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get to Jamie and San Ysidro. Jamie, what's going on, man? How's your Wednesday?
It's a little rainy out here, and I wanted to say to you, stop stretching a double into a triple. You're already in scoring position. Save your hammy.
You know what? I try to abide by. We do this thing on Saturdays. It's like Frisbee. It's kind of like Ultimate Frisbee, but really, it's was used to be called Boot Camp at Fitness Quest 10. It's kind of a whatever. It's a little Frisbee thing, and there's people from all ages that participate. They have a rule called the 70% rule. I need to start abiding by the 70% rule, and just go the 70%. Especially when I got to play multiple games in a night. It's just, why burn yourself out? What do you got for me?
So lightning in a bottle with Profar and Solano, I agree, but Jackson Merrill was lightning in a bottle last year. Nobody expected that from him, and we need that again this year. I think probably 90 wins, something like that's going to get us in the playoffs. But pitching is going to be a big deal, because you remember a couple of years ago we went 1 for 25 and 1-run games, and we won 1 extra inning game. We got to win those 1-run games, and pitching's a big part of that.
Pitching is a huge part of it. You need pitching, you need pitching, you need pitching. The Yu Darvish loss at the beginning of the season obviously hurts. Hopefully it's only at the beginning of the season. You can get him back near the end of the season. I think you had a decent amount of starting pitching to get you through most of the year. You're probably going to have to add at the deadline at some point, or hope that Waldron comes back in a good spot. Darvish comes back, and you're going to need some help from Kolek, who's starting the season in AAA. And I don't know if that's going to be enough. I think it will be enough to make it through the season, but we'll see come postseason time. But I agree with you, Jamie. Appreciate the phone call, and have fun tomorrow.
All right.
We'll move on. 833-288-0973. We said about like 80, 90 wins. Drew in the chat says 89. Street Documents in the chat says 92. Gracie Omler in the chat says 92. I mean, anything over 90, they're in the playoffs. I think it's going to be difficult for the Padres to get over 90. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Scott and RB. Scott, what's going on, man?
How we doing, Braden? I think we're
well.
88. Here's why. I think we're deeper than last year, but the West got better. Diamondbacks and Giants got better, and we play a lot of interleague. So I think that's going to be rough. Don't discount the Giants. I know a lot of people are saying Diamondbacks are it, but I think the Giants got better. I think Posey's trying his best up there to make that team better. So my prediction is 88, and it's going to be a dogfight to the end. It's all going to be on our pitching, and I agree that the bottom three, including Crony, got to step it up. I do expect Cronenworth to have a better year. I'm not expecting anything out of the catchers. That's a strikeout waiting to happen. So then it's going to be your number 8 hitter. And I also not counting on Jason Hayward. I watched him in spring training. He's just he doesn't have the swing speed. He just doesn't. And I think that will be a replacement by the end of June.
Scott, I appreciate the phone call. He's got the Padres at 88 wins, and that's obviously a spot for San Diego that would get him in the postseason. He brings up some good points. And again, the biggest question for the Padres, and should I say the biggest unknown of the season, is the bottom 3 spots in the order. You're going to go as far as that bottom 3 spots can take you. And if it's a bunch of automatic outs in the lineup, it's not going to be good for the Padres in those one-run games. I mean, and in situations where, those guys are going to have to come up clutch eventually. This is not like other sports where you can, like in basketball, if you need a shot, you can put it in Jordan's hands or put it in your best player's hands. It's not like in the NFL where you got a good quarterback under 2 minutes. He's going to move the ball down the field and score. It's not always going to be Fernando or Manny or somebody at the top of the order that has to come up to get a hit. It's going to be Martin Maldonado sometimes late in the game. It's going to be a Jason Hayward late in the game with 2 outs. It's going to be an Elias Diaz late in the game with 2 outs. It's going to be guys like Yuli Gurriel and a Gavin Sheets and maybe a Brandon Lockridge. You have to get production out of those guys in some capacity, because even though the top 6 is really good, the top 6 in the order is not at the level, I think, to carry the team the entire season. So, and that's going to be, again, the race for the playoffs is between the Padres and the Diamondbacks right now. This is the big race of the season. And we'll see what the rest of the league does in the National League East. And the National League East is a big factor in this as well. But that's where the race is, right? Is the Padres and the Diamondbacks before the season even starts. Root against the Diamondbacks every single game, every opportunity you have. The Rattlebacks. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Owen and El Cajon. Owen out in East County. What's going on, man?
Morning, Braden. I got the Padres at around 90 wins this year, kind of similar to what everyone else is thinking. I think a few big points that I think will help us propel us to that point is just some of the newer pitchers that we got going, like Pivetta. I think Vasquez needs to have a big year, and Waldron needs to have a big year to kind of supplement Yu Darvish's older age and kind of going in and out of the lineup a little bit. And I really do hope some of these young guys really step up and have big years. And really hoping Lockridge steps up and does what he needs to do. So I'm really hoping that we can make that happen. If we can beat up on the Rockies, Giants, and Diamondbacks this year, I think that'll really help us get into the playoffs, obviously. So we can focus on those interdivision games and win that spot. I think we'll be just fine this year.
Oh, and good phone call, man. I appreciate it. Totally agree. You got to take care of business against the lesser teams in the league as well. Because you look at the rest of the league and you rack up wins against teams like Colorado and the Angels, and you rack up wins against teams like the A's and maybe even the Rays, who might not be very good this year. You have to sweep some of those series. That's how you find your 90 wins is you're going to have to sweep some of those teams. So for the Padres, they have to be able to take care of business against the lesser opponents. That's been a big problem for them. The last couple of years, they've played down to their competition more times than they've needed to. And so that's going to be a big factor. But again, you got to be thinking, instead of everybody always thinking Padres, Dodgers for the race, it's Padres, Diamondbacks for the race for the postseason. And then kind of keeping your eye on what's going on in the National League East. That's your focus going into the season. And a good opportunity is the first 4 games of the season against Atlanta. That is a team that might be competition for you come August. I think the Chicago Cubs are going to be competition for you at the end of the year too. And you play them and play them the 6 times that you play them this year, you're done playing them after the first month of the season, and then you don't get to play them again, where you can make up ground in maybe the standings or anything like that. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Vista, where Juan wants to weigh in. Juan, what's going on, man?
Yeah, Braden. My prediction for this season is I think the Padres will probably win 90-ish, like 90 to 91 games. I think it just obviously depends on whether or not they're able to sweep multiple teams like they did last season. But in terms of like bold predictions, I think Elias Diaz probably has a bounce back year and maybe has 20 home runs this season.
20 home runs. That is a bold prediction. I like that, Juan. I'm going to tell you right now, if Elias Diaz has 20 homers, Padres are in the postseason. I think that's happening. You get 20 home runs out of your catching spot. That might be a big hole for the Padres, and you're in really good shape. And again, they focused on that being a defensive position, and with him and Martin Maldonado, not expecting a lot of offensive production out of those two, that's going to be a good spot, I think, for the Padres. If you get 20 home runs out of that position, that'd be great. I mean, any type of offensive production out of the catching spot this year, and you're in really good shape. Juan, I appreciate the phone call. Thanks again. We're going to keep taking your phone calls here in this segment. We'll push back the American League East and National League East preview. Again, we're talking about what your road down to the playoffs is for the Padres. Who needs to have a great year for the Padres in order to make the postseason, and how many games do you think they're going to win? And we'll continue this again tomorrow on the first day of the year, but I got the Padres at 86 wins. A lot of people are a little bit more optimistic than me, which is fine, but I got to think about it from a realistic standpoint. Clay in the South Bay's got him at 93 wins. So we'll see. We'll see where we got with some of these predictions. And I appreciate you guys being part of the show. It makes it a community show here on 97.3 The Fan. But I think some of the callers already have brought up some good points about some certain players that need to play. If you get that production out of some of these guys, there's going to be an unsung hero of the season. There's going to be a player that you were not expecting to have a big year, like Jurickson Profar did last year, although I think a lot of people did pick him to have a big year, like a Jackson Merrill to come out as a rookie and have a really good season. Now, that being said, you can't have a Jackson Merrill sophomore slump and be expected to win a lot of games and make the postseason, which puts a lot of pressure on his shoulders. But that's a guy that wants the pressure. He wants that. He wants the ball. He wants to come up there with a bat late in the game and get a knock. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Tim in Miramar. Tim, how many wins Padres going to get?
Hey, Braden, how you doing?
Doing well.
You're a little more optimistic than I am, so I'll take 86 and see if it gets them in. We'll see. But happy Wednesday, one more day. We don't have to talk the talk anymore. We can start to walk the walk, right?
That's right, Tim.
Let me ask you a question. What do all these players have in common? Mackenzie Gore, Ryan Weathers, Cal Quantrill, Dylan Lesko, and Robbie Snelling. What do they all have in common?
All former top pitching prospects of the San Diego Padres that now play for other teams.
How would you like to have even at least one of those guys still available?
It is a good question. We did talk about that a little bit last week, but
I mean, they made their bed, they got to lie in it, but I'm telling you, man, we've got nothing coming up for quite a while, and McGore's going to start opening day for the Nationals. Weathers had a great spring, and those two guys, Lesko and Snelling, sure would be nice to have an extra arm or two or three or four or five right now, wouldn't it?
it would be, Tim, and I appreciate the phone call. It would be nice to have some of those guys to fill out the rotation. The thing is with that is you have to go for it in years that you have an opportunity. You have to go for it. You have established your team in being a win-now mode by signing Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts, and I continue to say it ad nauseum over and over again. And when you have that opportunity, you have to go strike when the iron's hot because you don't know if you're going to get that again. The Padres don't have the resources to be the team that can play it safe long-term. They're not one of those teams, even though they have improved their payroll, even though they have gotten great attendance. We've heard about everything that has happened that has been a positive for the Padres, including the valuation of the team going up, being in the middle of the road. But when you are the San Diego Padres and you have, they're a big roll the dice team. I mean, this is a big roller, high roller whale of a team that goes out there and drops a lot of coin on black or red, and we're going all or nothing. That's what the team's been with AJ Preller in charge. That's what makes it exciting. I mean, that's the team that you are rooting for right now. That's just the way that they have built their organization. I mean, so you have to understand. I mean, they're not going to play it safe by keeping some of these pitchers. And we'll see how they do for all these other teams and everything like that. I mean, Dylan Lesko has flipped into Jason Adams, so that's not as big of a loss, I think, for the Padres. I think you can make the case for some of these rentals. At least with Mackenzie Gore, you got a year and a half out of Juan Soto, but it's with the years, when you needed him. And 2023 didn't work out, so then everybody wants to go back on some of those particular moves. I mean, you did bring some of those pitchers back. Are they as good as the pitchers that you gave up? I mean, Johnny Brito, Randy Vasquez. I mean, these are some of the players that you got back. Drew Thorpe obviously got sent to Chicago. He's on the injured list. He's not pitching this year with elbow problems. I mean, so you did get pitching back. I mean, you got Michael King, Johnny Brito, Randy Vasquez. You flipped Drew Thorpe in the Dylan Cease. I mean, so you did get some pitching back. Is Johnny Brito? Well, Brito's injured, so I guess you can make the argument that your ability is your availability. But with Johnny Brito and Randy Vasquez, are those guys better than some of the pitchers that you gave up? Are they worse than the guys that you gave up? And I'm not talking about like contracts, everything like that. But if Randy Vasquez has a better year than the Mackenzie Gore, I mean, you have one of those guys back. It's kind of an apples and oranges comparison. But it is a good point. Tim brings up a good point. It's a good talking point. It'd be nice to have those guys right about now. Yeah, but you traded them to go after it when you had an opportunity to win the whole thing. You have to make those moves to be able to win a World Series. Fortune favors the bold. And that's what the Padres are living with right now. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We're getting pushed up to the top of the hour, so we're gonna have to get to a break here. Rod, Bob, Greg, we're gonna get to your phone calls on the next side of this particular break. We'll also start breaking down some of the other competition in the American League and the National League. I mean, obviously the Padres, we could talk about what we want with San Diego and how many wins they're going to get and yada, yada, yada. There are other teams out there that are good, and there's other teams out there that might not be as good as we think based on, what we're traditionally know from their logo. And we'll talk about some of those and kind of preview Major League Baseball as we dive into it for another hour. First hour flew by. Again, how many wins Padres going to get this year? I got him at 86. Tim was the lowest so far. Under 86, a lot of people saying 90 or plus. Tell me what you think. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Just getting rolling on the Braden Surprenant Show, or the Braden Surprenant Experience on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 11 o'clock on a Wednesday. Braden Surprenant show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Really appreciate all of you joining us, making our day a part of yours. Little cloudy, little drizzly this morning. I saw that when I woke up and went outside. I was like, oh, wow, it's wet outside. What's going on? Thanks to all of you guys in the YouTube chat. We really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, give us a like. Hit that thumbs up on the YouTube video. It really helps us out. Again, trying to grow the program as we get ready for opening day again tomorrow. You can follow me on social media at B_SURP, at BSURP. We really appreciate you guys putting your comments in the chat. That helps us out as well. Chatting away. Again, the question about how many wins the Padres going to have this year. I got them at 86. We've only had one lower than 86. We've had a lot in the 90s or higher. Again, most places are picking the Padres to not make the playoffs. I think the Padres can make the playoffs. Again, I think the race comes down to them and Arizona for a playoff spot. Arizona. You got to be like James Franklin, the Penn State head coach, where the week of the opponent that he has, he just repeats it over and over and over again. Diamondbacks. That needs to be the season goal. Starting tomorrow, it needs to be Atlanta. Arizona, of course, does not have Jordan Montgomery anymore for the season, which is a huge loss for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Helps it balance out a little bit as well for the Padres. They do have a lot of good depth, though, in Arizona. So it's definitely a loss, which helps San Diego out. But again, got to be focused on the Padres. Before we talk about the competition and the previews here coming up in the next hour, the American League and the National League East, with some bold predictions. They are bold because I've already asked Adam one of the bold predictions about his beloved Atlanta Braves, and we'll get to that question in a little bit. But again, if you want to join the show today, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Tomorrow is opening day. Get excited. Padres fans will be out there live at Baja Ricks tomorrow. Ben and Woods will start things off at 6 a.m. They'll go 6 to 10. I'll be on from 10 to noon at Baja Ricks, 176th Avenue, across from the Hard Rock. Celebrate opening day. A lot of great deals for you guys. Breakfast menu, special breakfast menu, $10 foot-long TJ Dogs, special Blowfish Tequila Premium Margaritas. Should be a good time. We're there 6 a.m. to noon. Ben and Woods leads things off. I hit second in the order. Sam Levitt with the 3-hole spot tomorrow. Cleanup is the Padre game. Sam comes back up in the 5th spot, and then Gwen and Chris holds it down at the end of the day. A wall-to-wall coverage of opening day that will start at Baja Ricks. We're looking forward to it. Again, how many wins the Padres going to get? 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to the phones. Bob in San Marcos. Bob wants to weigh in. What's going on, man? Thanks for staying on hold for us.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I think the Padres go around 88, 90 wins. What they should do, I think, I know you got your set lineup in it for the offense side, but I think they should take those last 3, maybe disperse them between your better batters.
Move them around a little bit, try to find different spots for them to be in. That's an interesting idea, Bob, and I appreciate the phone call. I mean, obviously, a lot of it has to do with analytics with the Padres. They got a lot of, they're going a lot with Jackson Merrill in the 3 spot. I don't necessarily know I like that too much, but the guy can hit. So, you got one of your better hitters in the 3-hole. I'd rather have Tatis and Merrill go in the 1 or 2 spot and then have Arise hit 3rd. I know a lot of it's protection and everything like that, but if I had to make the lineup, I'd go Tatis lead off. I'd go Merrill 2. I'd go Arise 3. I'd go Manny 4. You're basically splitting hairs at the top of that order anyway, because you're going to have those 4 guys in the top 4 spots. But get some speed and athleticism on the bases in the 1-2. Then you bring up your best hitter and Luis Arise and get a single. You're probably going to score. You might even score 2 runs, and then Manny cleans everything up. Now the downside is if you got Arise at first and Manny comes up. That might be an inning double play. So that's the downside of that as well. But that's what I got with the lineup. Again, I like Jackson a little bit higher in the order, but I like him. Any of those top 4 is fine. Any of those top 4 is fine. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973.
If Jackson hits second, though, and Arise hits third, you got back-to-back lefties. Does that concern you?
I'm not as concerned about the lefty-righty mix-up as everybody else in Major League Baseball is, or some teams are. I think Jackson Merrill and Luis Arise, I think those top 4 players in the order are legit anyway. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I think it's a little different with guys like, Jake Cronenworth, because he's not as good against left-handers. But I'm going to take my chances with some of these players. I don't mind the 2 lefties back-to-back. I know it's a lot easier for the bullpen to bring the left-hander in when he faces 3, but I'm not a huge mix and match on the righty-lefty. I want to see my best guys at the top of the order. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Greg and Hamul, all the way out there in East County. What's going on, man?
Hey, good morning, Braden. Yeah, it is. It's kind of rainy, drizzly, but it's kind of nice. I'm out walking my dog. Hey, so, I know what you mean on the Dodgers, but just as the Dodger non-liker that I am, I just can't hand them the division. Everybody's got a chance at this point, and just with the Padres, I'm going to go 90. It's consistency. If they're all major leaguers, if they can play their consistent game, and a couple like last year, Merrill, if Manny and Tatis can, go above average, above what they can do, they got Snell up there. Snell might go mental and have some issues. So I get that against the Zona team, but I think we can do it.
All right, Greg, like the optimism. Enjoy walking your dog out there in East County. A little drizzly out there, but a lot of people want to keep their focus on LA. I think at the end of the season, once you get to September, take a look at the standings, and within 5 games, maybe you adjust it a little bit, but you got to be focused on the next opponent. Atlanta. You got to be worried about the Arizona Diamondbacks this year. That needs to be the team that you got your target on. Arizona. Diamondbacks. I need James Franklin to do that for me so I can have it as a clip and just keep playing it over and over and over again. Arizona. We appreciate you guys joining the show on the phone calls. I do want to get into, we got a little bit of time here, so we'll break it down as we kind of check off divisions for the beginning of the season. And, the first one that we're going to look at is the AL East. The American League East, always traditionally one of the best divisions in Major League Baseball. They have the traditional teams, right? The well-known household team names of the Boston Red Sox, the New York Yankees, and you got teams like Tampa and Baltimore and Toronto. That is your division in the American League East. But when you look at some of the previews of the season, it's interesting to see where they have certain teams and who might win the division. And right now, the favorite for a lot of teams, for a lot of outlets, is the Boston Red Sox. That's my pick too. I heard it yesterday on Gwynn and Chris. Gwynn and Chris both picked the Boston Red Sox to be the champion of the American League East. I think they've improved. Obviously getting a guy like Garrett Crochet is huge. I think with Baltimore losing Corbin Burns hurts them a lot. I think they need to make a move at the deadline to bring in more pitching. I think the Yankees are taking a step back with the fact that they have aging veterans, and on top of that, they also have a lot of injuries to start. I mean, 3/5 of their rotation is already on the injured list to start the year. No Garrett Cole. Heel is not going to pitch for the beginning part of the season. They also, lost and I'm blanking on his name, but they've lost 3/5 of their rotation to get the season started. That's not a great way to get your season off to a start. And then again, I mean, they did add a couple of pieces on the edges, like Cody Bellinger was and they tried to make their moves. They went and got Devin Williams out of the bullpen, Max Fried in the starting rotation. But again, 3 out of the 5 will not be there for the New York Yankees.
I've heard a lot of people mentioning Corbin Burns leaving the Orioles, which is obviously a huge thing, a huge loss for them. But the person that they also lost, who nobody mentions, is Anthony Santander. He hit 44 home runs and 102 RBIs last year.
And now a member of the Toronto Blue Jays.
That's right, in the division.
So for me, I like the Boston Red Sox to win that American League East. I think it's going to be, it might be a special year for the Bo Sox in the American League East. It's everybody's favorite. Now, the question is who's potentially two, and I think it's going to be Baltimore. And the question is, how can the Baltimore Orioles beat out the Red Sox for a title? Well, the Orioles will win the division because they will come together enough pitching to outlast the Red Sox and the Yankees. That's what they're going to have to do. They got a lot of young players. You know, Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, Colton Cowser. They'll carry the offense the entire year. I'm curious to see how Jackson Holiday plays, as he is now doesn't have that ridiculous expectations that were set for him last year. Maybe he'll be a little bit more relaxed and productive. But the wild card maybe for Baltimore, Tamayuki Sagano, who signed out of Japan, in the rotation. Maybe he is a void, or is somebody that fills a void in that rotation for Baltimore. I think Baltimore's youth is the reason they could get the Red Sox. But I got the Red Sox as the winner. I think Tampa comes in last. I think it's going to be a tight race between Toronto and Tampa. You know, playing out in 100-degree humid weather at Steinbrenner Field and in Tampa at a minor league ballpark, I think is gonna do the Rays in for most of the year. They've already lost McClanahan at the beginning of the season, and it didn't sound like it was going to be as big of an injury as they initially thought, but he's going to be out to start the year. I think that's rough news for the Rays. So I think they come in last. MVP, I think it's hard to pick somebody other than Aaron Judge, even though usually the team that wins the division gets the MVP. I'm going to go Aaron Judge, the MVP. I think Garrett Crochet gets that Cy Young award that Gwen and Chris were handing out yesterday. And then I think the newcomer that might have an impact is Cody Bellinger. I could see Cody Bellinger having a good year for the Yankees, especially as a left-handed hitter at Yankee Stadium. So that's kind of my AL East predictions. We'll get to the bold predictions of the American League East when we come back, kind of preview the National League East as well as we carry on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 11:17 on a Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't know what day it is. Tomorrow's opening day. That's all I know. Tomorrow's opening day. I don't know what day that is. I guess it's tomorrow, whatever day that may be. It's opening day. Tomorrow's opening day. Just been all over the place in the last couple of days with a bunch of work and everything like that. So tomorrow is Thursday, which means today is Wednesday. There we go. On it now. Talking about the AL East preview. Again, if you want to join the show today, how many wins the Padres get? I said 86, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We talked about who the winner's going to be. I picked the Red Sox, last place Tampa. MVP Aaron Judge, Cy Young Garrett Crochet, newcomer of the year Cody Bellinger. There's some bold predictions that I find interesting with the American League East, and we'll start with the Baltimore Orioles. Heston Kjerstad will get traded for a pitcher. Bold prediction for Baltimore. I could buy this a little bit just because of the fact that they have a lot of players ready to go for Baltimore and a lot of young players. They haven't departed, or should I say, have not sent any of them off for pitching. And every year, we keep thinking they're going to do that. But Heston Kjerstad, the number 2 pick in the 2020 draft, turned 26 last month. He's done all he's needed to do in AAA, and yet there's really not a spot for him in the outfield. They got Colton Cowser, they got Ramon Laureano now, Cedric Mullins, of course, the multi-all-star for Baltimore. Tyler O'Neill they just picked up in the offseason. So they got 4 outfield spots already taken for Heston Kjerstad. And at designated hitter, they got Ryan O'Hearn and Gary Sanchez. Gary Sanchez is a Baltimore Oriole. And unless Baltimore is waiting for O'Hearn or maybe Mullins and even Laureano to become free agents after the season to finally bring up Kjerstad, it might be a good time for them to trade Heston Kjerstad for a pitcher, and they need pitching. That has been the biggest problem for Baltimore the last couple of years is they need pitching. They went and got Corbin Burns. Now he's gone. They need pitching. Kjerstad will get traded for a pitcher. I'd buy that. I bet you it happens right before the trade deadline where Baltimore gets an upgraded pitcher and gives the Boston Red Sox a run for their money. Speaking of the Boston Red Sox, very interesting bold prediction. Did you know the Boston Red Sox, who has Rafael Devers and Jarren Duran, and 31 home run man Tyler O'Neill, did not hit a single grand slam last year? Their 109 plate appearances with the bases loaded were the 6th fewest in baseball, but still didn't hit a grand slam. You'd think a team with that much offensive talent would have run into one with the sacks full last year, but they did not. So you know what that means? The Boston Red Sox will hit a grand slam on opening day. I could buy that bold prediction. Those are kind of the crazy ones that don't make a lot of sense. They didn't hit one last year, so they might as well hit one on opening day. No grand slams last year. Maybe they'll get it the first time that they have an opportunity. Maybe it's Alex Bregman. CBS Sports goes, Alex Bregman will hit a grand slam in the 4th inning on opening day. Look for that tomorrow. I will sell that portion. Hit a grand slam on opening day? Sure, why not? Kick off the big season that the Red Sox are going to have. New York, buy or sell bold prediction. Aaron Judge will be intentionally walked with the bases loaded. I don't think Aaron Judge is at the level of Barry Bonds. I mean, that is something I would totally believe if Barry Bonds came to the plate. I wouldn't be surprised if it's happened. I can't remember off the top of my head. Again, Barry played when I was mostly a little kid. There was a few times last year that it kind of crept in a lot of people's mind about whether or not Aaron Judge would be intentionally walked with the bases loaded. He's hit an absurd 304 average with a 433 on base and a 674 slug with 157 homers in the last 3 seasons. And the lineup around him isn't as scary as it was with Juan Soto and Giancarlo Stanton now not being in the lineup to start the season. Juan Soto, of course, is now in Queens for the New York Mets. Stanton is injured. I can see Aaron Judge maybe. I think the team would have to be crazy, though. So I'm going to sell that. I don't think Aaron Judge is good enough a hitter to be intentionally walked with the bases loaded. I don't think he's at that level yet. even though he's still a really good hitter. I'd still rather face Judge than put him on first and bring in a run. Tampa Bay. This one's interesting because of the ballpark they play in now. Buy or sell, Tampa Bay will set a franchise record for home runs. Who knows whether or not the Rays will ever return to Tropicana Field after Hurricane Milton, but they will play their home games right now at George Steinbrenner Field, spring training home of the Yankees, with the same dimensions as Yankee Stadium, meaning right field's going to be short and a lot cozier than the Trop. Buy or sell, they'll set a franchise record for home runs. I'm buying that. You got lefties, Jonathan Aranda, Brandon Lau, Josh Lau, all stand to benefit most from the short porch. Tampa Bay's pitchers aren't going to like it, though. I don't think they're going to win a lot of games, but they will set a franchise record for home runs at George M. Steinbrenner Field. Toronto Blue Jays, buy or sell, they'll sign Vlad Guerrero Jr. I'm going to sell that. I don't think Vlad's going to end up being with Toronto. I think he leaves. I think he wants way too much money. I don't think they're going to give him the kind of money he wants, even though that they have been flirting with it all the time with a lot of players. I mean, they have been the team that has been runner-up almost on every single major player, so maybe they do overpay for Vlad Guerrero Jr. to sign him. I just don't think Vlad's going to stay in Toronto. I just feel like he's going to be somewhere else, so I'm going to sell that. And that's the American League East preview. Let's talk about the NL East for a little bit. I think the National League East, as we preview baseball today on the Braden Surprenant Show, getting you ready for opening day. We talked a lot about the Padres, and again, I got the question out there that we've talked about. What has to go right for the Padres to make the playoffs? And I don't think it's a situation where they're not going to make it and it's going to be difficult, like super difficult for them to make the postseason, where it's a, like it was in 2013 potentially. But you look at how everything's shaking out in the National League from a focus on the Padres perspective. We know certain players have to perform in order to make the playoffs. I think they got to get production out of the bottom of the order. I think they have to have, guys like Kyle Hart and Randy Vasquez really fill the void in the rotation. I mean, guys need to step up in a lot of different spots. You got to get some type of production out of Jason Hayward. Be nice to get some offensive production out of catching position, but I don't think it's necessarily that necessary. Maybe a big year out of Fernando. What do you think the Padres have to do in order to make the postseason? How many wins are they going to get? I got them at 86. We had a couple below. We've had a lot in the 90s or higher. You can weigh in on the chat on YouTube. You can also give us a call, 833-288-0973. But when talking about the National League East, as we look at the competition of the San Diego Padres this year, and again, the American League you don't really have to worry about, but you will see every team in the American League at some point during the year. The National League East is going to be a gauntlet of a division. I mean, I think the National League West and the National League East are going to be two absolute insane races. Not so much in terms of maybe the division for the National League West, but the race between the Padres and the Diamondbacks for second place and a berth in the playoffs, I think is going to be a slugfest. But I think the biggest race is going to be the National League East with Atlanta and New York and Philadelphia, who's not getting too much love, although there were a couple of outlets that picked them to win a World Series. I mean, that's going to be the toughest race in the National League. Atlanta's gearing back up with players that they had lost for injury last year that are getting healthy for this year. You got the New York Mets that spent a lot of money on Juan Soto to pair him with Francisco Lindor. And they got a pretty good lineup. They brought the polar bear back too. You got the Philadelphia Phillies, who have been mashers the last couple of years, that have some decent pitching. Aside from those three teams, it really falls off with Washington, Miami, who are kind of playing for next year. But, I mean, you look at the way that the National League East is putting together, this is a tough division. And they're going to be must-watch games, and that's the competition for the Padres, too. They got to outdo a couple of those teams in order to make the postseason if they don't outdo the Diamondbacks. National League East, favorite to win for me. I got the Atlanta Braves. I think the Atlanta Braves win that division. I think they're the best team in the National League East. I think with Acuna coming back, I think with Spencer Strider at some time coming back, I think with the lineup that they have, I think it's going to be a team it's going to be hard to beat. I think everybody's given the Mets a lot of love because they brought in Juan Soto. I think the Phillies have gotten some love, obviously, with Bryce Harper and everything that the Phillies have put together the last couple of years. I like Atlanta to win that division. That's why this first series is a big one between Atlanta and San Diego. Padres got to get off to a good start, and I think they're playing the biggest thorn for the Dodgers and the biggest obstacle for the Dodgers of winning a World Series, I think, resides in Atlanta. They're my winner. Last place could be Miami. I mean, they're going to suck. They're not going to be very good. They're not going to be good at all. The thing is you have to take care of business against them when you play them the 6 times, but they got nothing down in Miami. They're already rebuilding for next year and probably the year after that, where who knows how long of a season you're going to get in 2027 with the CBA. They're coming last. I think Washington's okay from coming in last because Miami's there.
Give me a date. What date will Sandy Alcantara no longer be on the Marlins?
Oh, man.
Because they're accustomed to trading in season well before the trade.
I was going to say, you think they Luis Ariz him? I think they Luis Ariz him. I think he's off the Marlins before Memorial Day. That will be my bold prediction for the Marlins. Alcantara's off the Marlins by Memorial Day.
He's got multiple years of control.
And he's going to go out there and they're going to spend it. And the guy that Peter Bendix, who has gotten played the last couple of times from trades, is going to send him to a contender. Maybe, I don't think they're going to go in division, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in Baltimore. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in one of those American League East destinations. I mean, the Yankees are missing 3 of their 5 starters to start the season, and Heel and obviously Garrett Cole, and not having Clark Schmidt. I could see that happening as well. MVP of the National League East, Ronald Acuna Jr. I think Spencer Strider is the best pitcher in that division this year, and I think the newcomer of the year is obviously Juan Soto. Juan Soto's going to do Juan Soto things. That's the National League East preview here at 11:30. We're rolling on the Braden Surprenant Show, talking some of the bold predictions. I want to get back to your phone calls too, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. What do the Padres have to do in order to make the postseason? How many wins are they going to get? Plus, very interesting story coming up at noon. Power 4 schools worried about the cap, the salary cap, and how other schools are spending money. They don't like the fact that they might be outspent with these new rules. We'll talk about that at noon, but more previews for you as we get you ready for opening day tomorrow on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Finishing up the second hour of the Braden Surprenant Show. You can give us a call at 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Want to get back to a lot of these previews, get you ready for opening day tomorrow. Should be a fun time down at Baja Ricks. We're looking forward to it, seeing all of you guys out there excited for Padres baseball. We're going to let, I do want to show some stuff from Petco Park. Today is the day that the media is allowed in to see all the new amenities and everything like that. We're going to show you some of the food again. We talked about the food, but we didn't have examples, and there's some new things that were not mentioned before. And Sam Levitt is out there posting all sorts of pictures of the brand new food items at Petco Park, including a new California burrito from Puesto. Some ceviche, lobster rolls. We're going to show you that in a little bit. I want to let Sam get all of the pictures ready to go. But I do want to show one, and I find it interesting that we have a new game up at the loft where Sam broadcasts from. And that would be Pop-A-Shot. The Pop-A-Shot has been busted out at the Western Metal Supply Company building at the loft. They had a couple of other games up there last year, the last couple of years. They had shuffleboard and they had pool, but now they got a Pop-A-Shot up there. I wonder if you're going to be able to hear that on the pregame show. Pop-A-Shot in the background. Sam's trying to do his pregame show. Just brick, make a shot, brick. I think that's awesome. New Pop-A-Shot game at the loft. You got to go out and check out the loft. If you tomorrow at opening day, again, the loft is open to the public unless there's a private event there. Opening day tomorrow, we will be at Baja Ricks, right? And then right before you walk in, you have some time to go check out Sam Levitt's broadcast. Go check out the new loft. Pop-A-Shot inside the loft at the Western Metal Supply Company building. A lot of other good menu items and everything like that we see popping up on Sam Levitt's social media page at Sammy Lev. He's got a picture of the boba tea from Teaspoon. He's got some of the new menu items from Puesto. The Baja style fruit cup with some tahini on it. Ooh, that's pretty good. California burrito, carne asada fries, traditional shrimp ceviche and vegetarian ceviche are now available at Petco Park that you can check out. He showed the pictures of the Pacific lobster roll and the lobster topper chorizo sausage. I didn't know that was the case. You got a chorizo sausage with lobster on top? Are you kidding me? And then a new dessert item. We talked about Mr. Softy and having the ice cream and the batting helmet. Well, maybe more of an adult dessert. Banana bread pudding helmets. That sounds to die for. And we'll show you pictures of this as Sam gets it all together in the noon hour. We got to talk about that other thing in college athletics too at noon, but wanted to continue the previews as we roll on here on the Braden Surprenant Show. We talked about the NL East. I think Atlanta's going to win the division. I think Miami comes in last. I think Acuna, even though he's missing time, I still think he's going to be the MVP of the league. I think he has a good season for Atlanta. I mean, losing him last year is massive for the Atlanta Braves. I think they're just a way better team when he plays. I think you'll see it. Newcomer of the year will be Juan Soto. And even though Spencer Strider's going to miss some time too, I got him as my bold prediction best pitcher of the National League East. In terms of bold predictions, this one's very interesting to me with Atlanta. So the Atlanta Braves traded a lot of catching prospects in the past and a lot of other players that obviously they could use at this time. And they had to make a couple of those moves to try to bring Sean Murphy in to be a catcher for the Atlanta Braves because that had been one of their trouble spots. Sean Murphy, who has been the workhorse catcher of the Atlanta Braves, will begin the season injured after he cracked a few ribs early this spring on an errant pitch in spring training, which has now led to Drake Baldwin getting an opportunity to start games behind the plate for Atlanta. Drake Baldwin's one of their best prospects in the organization. Drake Baldwin last year in AAA hit .298 with a .407 on base and a .484 slugging percentage and has made strides with his glove. Baldwin might have a really good year. Sean Murphy on the other side has hit 181 with a 294 on base and a 323 slugging percentage since the 2023 All-Star break. Atlanta owes Sean Murphy a lot of money, but being a team in which they're all in on the World Series, and if Baldwin gets an opportunity to give them a better chance of winning, you could see a situation where Sean Murphy gets Wally pipped. Wally Pipp, of course, was the player that was playing in front of Lou Gehrig, who got hurt and lost his job to Lou Gehrig once upon a time, a long time ago. Murphy gets hurt. Drake Baldwin enters the lineup. He's a top prospect for Atlanta. With the way that Sean Murphy has been hitting the last couple of years, with the way that Baldwin might be off to a good start, you never know. I could buy that. I think that might happen. So I think Sean Murphy will get Wally pipped. I'll buy that bold prediction for the Atlanta Braves. As for New York Mets, again, the big move for the New York Mets was they brought in Juan Soto. There's not a lot of bold predictions with Juan Soto. Obviously, I'm sure there's some in terms of certain levels that they can reach, certain levels he can reach from a statistical standpoint. But Clay Holmes, as a member of the New York Mets, was an all-star closer in 2022 and 2024. Bold prediction, he'll be an all-star in 2025. Mets are moving Holmes back into the rotation as he started a game in 2018, and he looked sharp enough in spring training to earn the team's opening day start. Prediction says Holmes will pitch well enough in his new role to earn his third all-star game selection in the last 4 years. I'll buy that. I'll buy Clay Holmes as an all-star as the bold prediction for the New York Mets. Miami Marlins, 2 players will steal 40 bases. They got some speed down there in Miami. I think that'll be the highlight of their potential season. Xavier Edwards, former Padres farmhand, swiped 31 bags in only 71 games last year. Otto Lopez stole 20 bags in 117 games. Javier Sonia is in line for more playing time with Jesus Sanchez injured. He stole 37 bases in the minors as recently as 2023. If he makes it a priority, Connor Norby has the speed to steal 20 bags. So 2 players stealing 40 bases for Miami. The fact that they're going to be down and have different ways to try to get back into offense, I could buy that too. I think Miami Marlins will have 2 players that steal 40 bags this season. Philadelphia Painter will make a postseason start. Sure, why not? It's not that big of a deal. And then for Washington, their bold prediction is they will not use the number 1 draft pick on a pitcher. Nationals won the draft lottery in December at the winter meetings. They'll hold the number 1 overall selection in July's draft. Previous 2 times they held the number 1 pick worked out pretty well. Steven Strasburg in 2009 and Bryce Harper in 2010. These days, taking a pitcher with a high pick is somewhat frowned upon because there's so much inherent injury risk, but tide is beginning to change thanks in part to Paul Skeens. Smart money is on Washington taking a pitcher as number 1 pick with Florida State's Jamie Arnold as consensus best in class. CBS Sports says they will not use the number 1 draft pick on a pitcher. I don't really have an opinion on that. I mean, sick. That's the point with the Nationals. The thing with the Nationals is like they're predicting the bold prediction for the year on their draft picks. I mean, we couldn't come up with any of them involving Mackenzie Gore. Like bold prediction, Mackenzie Gore makes an all-star game. He's the lone representative as an all-star for Washington. James Wood has a big season. CJ Abrams bounces back. I mean, those are bold predictions. The Nationals not using the number 1 pick on a pitcher is not a bold prediction. Mackenzie Gore is the opening day starter, and since we talked about it with Tim and Miramar earlier on the show, obviously a piece that would be nice to have right now, just because of the fact that the Padres are missing spots in the rotation to start the year with a couple of holes, obviously, some injuries as well. It'd be nice to have some of the pitchers that they shipped off. You know, getting Juan Soto back for a year and a half of control and then flipping him for other pitching prospects, I think is a little bit of a different conversation than, you know, as we've mentioned before, the trade for a relief pitcher that was a rental in Tanner Scott, where you gave up some pitching prospects in that particular case. You know, it'd be nice to have Adam Major right now and Robbie Snelling. I mean, those are moves that make a little bit more sense. Now, in terms of Mackenzie Gore, he is the opening day starter for the Washington Nationals. I think a bold prediction would be that he is the lone all-star for the Washington Nationals. In fact, that's the bold prediction I'm going to go with because I think it's going to set off a lot of Padres fans anyway if that appears to be the case. But a lot of these guys, and again, I mean, they needed that for, I still think the move to acquire Juan Soto was good because I think you have to go out there and strike when the iron's hot. I think you have to strike while the iron's hot. I think losing James Wood's going to hurt a little bit more to the Padres than losing a Mackenzie Gore. But with pitching, everybody develops at different times. I think a lot of people were expecting Mackenzie Gore to develop at such a rapid pace. So a bold prediction would be that Mackenzie Gore is an all-star for the Washington Nationals at the All-Star break. That would be a bold prediction. And I could see that potentially happening. I'm curious to see how he plays out. I mean, it's interesting to see people look at some of these guys because, again, everybody wants to evaluate trades way down the road after they happen. I still think making the Juan Soto move was a good idea. And the other thing with trades is there's no guarantee that those trades were going to work out for your team. Maybe it happened because now with opportunity and being able to play every day, these guys develop into better players. I mean, you never know how it's going to work. You never know with some of the younger players how they develop in different organizations compared to your organizations. So for me, it's very difficult. It's hard to evaluate a lot of those trades. I mean, I think obviously the Padres acquiring Fernando Tatis Jr. from the White Sox is thievery. And we'll see how these play out. I think a lot of people are afraid that the Nationals are going to have good players with the Padres prospects that were sent over there, and they're going to turn into great guys. But again, if James Wood turns into Juan Soto or better, then it's a bad move. If he doesn't get up to the Juan Soto status, then I mean, you did what you had to do to acquire the talent you needed to acquire in a year that you wanted to go out there and win a World Series. In a year that you also thought Fernando was coming back, in which he did not come back. I mean, when they made that move, Fernando was in the minor leagues on a rehab assignment before the whole PED suspension and investigation. That could have been a drastically different team with Fernando on it and Juan Soto. I mean, the fact that they were able to get to the National League Championship Series and did it without Fernando is a big thing, too. So I'm not worried about the players that the Padres sent over to Washington turning into good players. It happens in baseball. I mean, you win some trades, you lose some trades. I mean, you're moving guys around. I think getting some return from it after you traded Juan Soto back away, I think is a good point too. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We keep asking, what do the Padres have to do in order to make the playoffs? According to some people in the chat, they got no shot at making the playoffs. I think they do. I think they're a good team. I think with the stars that they have, they could be a good team. I also got them at 86 wins. I mean, I don't know necessarily. I think that's borderline making the playoffs, but I think they got to be able to outdo the Arizona Diamondbacks if they want to be able to make the postseason. Yeah, chat's on fire. I told I need money in the YouTube chat. He's got to come on, man. He's the mod. He's got to go in there and clean this up a little bit. But we appreciate everybody in the chat, regardless of what the opinion you have on the Padres is. Want to get to your phones. We're pressed up against the top of the hour, so not a lot of time. But Kevin in Chula Vista wants to weigh in. Kevin, you got a couple minutes. What do you got?
Yeah, hey, Bray, thanks. I know we're short on time. This is what I say with the Padres, their team, if Fernando can finally play a full season, if the injuries stay to a minimum, and you get production 1 through 6 in that order, sans forgetting about 7, 8, and 9, unless you get lucky, we can get to 85, 86, as you say, but that's what it's going to take to get there. What disturbs me is the fact that
there's consequences for everything that happens in these trades. No argument about getting Juan Soto and going for it. But on the flip side to that is that when you have a situation, especially this summer, where we're looking to replace catch and outfielders, there's nothing in the farm system, and we're ending up with 40-year-old guys that are closer to Social Security than they are a major league career at the beginning. So, let's see what happens. That's what 162 is all about. There's going to be a couple of sleeper teams that come out of nowhere. That always happens in the National League, extremely competitive. Let's just have fun and see what happens.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Kevin. Appreciate it. I think he weighs in on a lot of different problems the Padres have. And here's the deal. As many issues as the Padres have, there's no perfect – well, I'm not going to say that. There might be one in LA. But there's no perfect team in Major League Baseball that's loaded from top to bottom, in the bottom of the order. So that's going to open up a lot for the Padres in terms of competition. That's what sports is about. It's the competition. I'm looking forward to this. I think the races for the wild card and for the division in the National League East and the races in the National League in general are going to be fun to watch. I think you're going to get some high-energy games. I think with the crowds that Petco Park already bring. I mean, we talk about the Padres-Dodgers series being big all the time, right? Because that's we got to treat those Padres-Diamondbacks series like they are playoff games, because they are. The 13 games against the Arizona Diamondbacks are playoff games. Arizona, Arizona, Arizona. Needs to be the mindset this season. Needs to be focused on Arizona. Focus on ourselves, obviously, in the clubhouse. But from a fan perspective, don't worry about the Dodgers. You worry about the Diamondbacks. Take care of business against teams that are lesser than the Padres, not playing down to competition. Because the National League is going to be a gauntlet this year in Major League Baseball. And I'm looking forward to it. I mean, you almost got a playoff series to start the weekend with Atlanta coming to town. See how you do against the Atlanta Braves. I think they're going to win the division in the National League East. But Arizona Diamondbacks need to be the focus for the Padres fans. Let's get out to Jerry and Santee. Jerry, got a couple seconds. What do we got here?
Hey, thanks for having me on. Maybe I'm just the last optimistic Padre fan, but it seems like we always feel this way at the beginning of the season, especially about the bottom of the lineup. I did want to touch on your Juan Soto trade. If you remember back, the big piece of that a lot of people didn't want to get rid of was Robert Hassel. And I'm wondering whatever happened to him. Just like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, appreciate it, Jerry. We got a couple I got a minute or so to talk about that. Robert Hassel has not been very good for the Washington Nationals. He's been kind of a disappointment. But the thing with Washington is the biggest piece that had the most potential. I think Robert Hassel was the closest to the major leagues, but the piece that was the one that was the hidden gem was James Wood. And James Wood has done really well for Washington in the minor leagues. We haven't seen it at the major league level yet. He has come up and made his debut and has played a little bit. But the part of the trade to me that would put me in a spot where it hurts the Padres is I don't think it's Mackenzie Gore, and I don't think it's CJ Abrams. I don't think it's Robert Hassel. It's James Wood. If James Wood becomes one of the top players in Major League Baseball, you could think about that trade being catastrophically bad for the Padres. But until that, I don't know if that's the case. We got a lot to talk about. We continue to preview some leagues coming up, but we're out of time on the sports thread. We're going to come back with a sports thread and pictures of some of the new ballpark foods on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego Sports Station 97.3 The Fan. Lunchtime hour. And speaking of lunchtime hour, we're going to get you some pictures of some of the food that Sam has been able to check out at Petco Park. It's the media day at Petco today. Getting all the tour of the brand new facilities with a lot of the giveaways that they have, as well as the food. And if you haven't checked them out yet, it will be at Sammy Lev on social media. We will post some of those and show some of those in just a little bit. But first, we missed it earlier because I lost track of time. But it's time to talk about the trending stories in sports with today's sports thread.
You know that group chat? The one that's always blowing up with the biggest sports takes, debates, and breaking news?
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me?
Yeah, we've got that too. Welcome to the Sports Thread, where we break down the top 5 stories in sports, just like you would with your crew.
Oh, no! Disaster! What a bad idea!
No filters, no silence, just real talk.
Adam Klug going to lead the way, and I don't want to put the pressure on him, but he said this might be one of the best sports threads that we have had so far.
I did say that. Should I not have?
No. I mean, you got to shoot high, right?
Number 1.
Let's start off with some Mountain West basketball news as New Mexico head coach Richard Pitino is bolting to take over at Xavier after the Musketeers lost Sean Miller. Pitino guided the Lobos to the regular season conference title and the first-round NCAA win over Marquette. Pitino will now coach in the same conference as his father, Rick. Braden, do you consider Xavier as a step up from New Mexico?
In the Big East?
Yeah.
I think so. I think it is a step up to New Mexico. Let's think about the trajectory of where the programs are going and where everything is right now in college athletics. So the Big East is considered a power conference for basketball. Big East does not have to spend money on football. They're a conference that does not have football, and most of their schools do not have football at any type of level. And when we're going to talk about a little bit later on with what the mid-majors are doing to scare the Power Four in terms of the revenue sharing and how they're going to spend the money, the Big East was one of the teams that were thrown in there because of they get Power Four level money from TV contracts. Then they don't have to invest it in football. They can invest it in basketball. Now, if you look at New Mexico, I don't think that the new Pac-12 is going to be a power conference, but it's going to be better than the Mountain West. And New Mexico got left behind in the Mountain West. So I think this is definitely a step up. And I think from entertainment value to watch Rick go against his son is going to be fun.
Number 2.
There were 2 big signings in the NFL yesterday. The Giants signed Russell Wilson to a 1-year, $21 million deal after recently signing Jameis Winston as well. I guess that probably takes them out of the quarterback market with the 3rd pick. While the Patriots signed Stephon Diggs to a 3-year, $69 million deal. Diggs is coming off of a season-ending knee injury last year. Which of these 2 moves will be more impactful in 2025?
So it was the Stephon Diggs to the Patriots,
Or Russell Wilson to the Giants?
I think Stephon Diggs to the Patriots. I don't think Russ can cook anymore. I know he lives here in San Diego and big Padres fan with his kids and everything like that. I just think it's over for him. I mean, I think he actually played a lot better than I was anticipating in Pittsburgh, but I feel like his shtick has run old for a lot of players that he plays with, and I just don't see the Giants being able to benefit from Russell Wilson. They have so many problems anyway. At least with Russ and the Steelers is he had a decent group around him with a good coach of Mike Tomlin. I mean, the Giants have been a disaster the last couple of years, and I don't think they're going to get any better with Russ. I don't mind the Stephon Diggs move to New England. It gives Drake May a number 1 receiver. I know with his injury concerns, it might be a little, and he's up there in years, so it's not like they're getting fresh Stephon Diggs. But
Right.
In terms of an impact comparing the 2, I think it will be a little bit better for the Patriots with Stephon Diggs and the Giants with Russell Wilson.
Number 3.
Well, let's talk about the Steelers because there's a domino effect of Russ's signing with the Giants. We played a clip last week from Steelers captain Cam Hayward where he didn't seem too interested in recruiting Aaron Rodgers to the black and yellow. Appearing this morning on the NFL Network, Hayward said his comments were misconstrued and that he wouldn't follow Rodgers into a darkness retreat as a recruiting tactic. But Hayward added that it would be really cool to have Rodgers in Pittsburgh, but that decision has to be made by Rodgers himself. What do you think? Last week you said you believed Rodgers would retire and sit out next year before returning to the league a year later. you standing by that, or do you think he'll end up signing with the Steelers?
Well, I mean, we're still waiting. I mean, here's the thing with Aaron Rodgers, though. He's just going to wait till the last possible second to not have to do any of the offseason stuff.
Right.
Doesn't want to do the OTAs, doesn't want to do the extra camp things, and he's going to do his own training and everything like that, and his darkroom therapy, and he's going to milk it the whole time. It's like a lot of college recruits that want to be wined and dined. I think that's what he wants. And then if he gets what he wants, I think he will sign, but I don't think he's going to get what he wants. I don't think the Steelers are going to go that low and deal with Aaron Rodgers and play his game. And I think eventually they're going to move on and find somebody else. And then that will be the last option for Aaron Rodgers, as other teams have already said, we're good.
Number 4.
LeBron James is relaunching his podcast called Mind the Game, which will be co-hosted by 2-time NBA MVP, Basketball Hall of Famer, and former NBA head coach Steve Nash. I made sure to say former NBA head coach because LeBron's last co-host was JJ Redick, who's now the current head coach of the Lakers. Do you believe Steve Nash is doing this podcast as a way to get back into coaching?
Well, the track record shows that it's a pretty good gig if you do the podcast with LeBron and then become a head coach. So maybe he is. I don't know. The podcast, everybody's got a podcast. Everybody's got a podcast. What do they say on all these podcasts? What do they talk about?
Talking ball.
Talking ball. We're talking ball.
Do you know
I don't
ball?
think it's his main reason for doing the podcast, but to be relevant back in the NBA and basketball, maybe that's the reason. And then if it works out for more, it works out for more. But I don't think I'm not buying the conscribacy on that.
Conscribacy, I love that.
Number 5.
The after effects of the Luka Doncic trade are still being felt in the DFW. During yesterday's Mavs game, team CEO Rick Welch joined the team broadcast and had this message for Mavericks fans.
Right time, wins and losses will tell whether the deal was a good deal or a bad deal. I just am going to promise to our fans right now, we're whatever trust we have lost or whatever concerns they have, we're going to earn it back because we're going to do this the right way. We're going to win championships.
Do you believe the Mavs front office can win back the trust of their fan base?
No, because I got friends
And win championships.
No, because I have friends that are Mavericks fans that have already basically said the hell with them, and they're like, they're out. They're out. There's no reason for them to root for the Mavericks. They want Nico gone. They want everybody involved with the Mavericks gone. They're such a sour taste in their mouth. There's only a handful of people I know that are like, oh, it's part of the business, and we still represent the Mavs. I mean, they have done so much damage in that town, in a town that's got a lot of other options for sports teams for them to recuperate what they had lost. And I just think it's going to be hard for them to do unless they fire everybody there. But we'll see if they make the postseason, they're close. Maybe it will change things a little bit.
Anthony Davis just returned, right?
If you get Anthony Davis and he starts becoming a youthful star at his age, maybe, but I doubt it. I think a lot of people have already said we're out. So that's it for the sports thread. Dallas Mavericks talk. I heard Mavericks and I thought you were doing a high school segment. No, I'm not doing a high school. I'm not talking about the La Costa Canyon Mavericks. My browser continues to lose connection to my camera, which is fun. So I don't know. So now you're on camera. Yeah, so Adam's on camera.
Hi, everybody. I guess I'm on camera now.
And then my camera just doesn't want to work for some reason. Now I'm just this red alien box, which is fun. So Adam's on camera. I'll be talking on the show. This is what happens when people just start going crazy on the chat. We gotta clean it up, guys. We gotta clean it up. Too much S talking in the chat today. Too much S talking. Echo chambers and everything like that. You guys are picking each other apart. Come on, man. Come on, man. Gotta be better. The better of the show. Yeah, I got blocked. Apparently I got blocked. That's what it is on the camera. So since we will try to figure out what my camera issue is, the next segment is a good opportunity to show everything that's going on at Petco Park as we get a sneak preview on some of the new amenities around Petco, a lot of the new food items. We talked about some of them yesterday, but we didn't talk about all of them yesterday. There's some new food items at a lot of different spots. Adam's showing the pudding right now. As we're getting close to time, we only got about a minute, and we're gonna go to break.
It's called a tease.
Little tease here. Look at the pudding, the banana pudding. I'm in on the banana pudding. I might have to get this one time. I mean, the ice cream is one thing. I haven't had an ice cream in a helmet in a long time. When I go to games, I mean, I'm usually there working a lot of the times. Now they do have an ice cream machine in the press box, which is great. But banana bread pudding helmets. Look like it's got some vanilla wafers on top. It looks delightful. And that is one of the many things that are now available for Padres fans to purchase. We talked about some of the new restaurants. Some of the older restaurants have new menu items that were not mentioned in yesterday's deal, including a couple from Puesto that we want to talk about as well. Sam Levitt is getting us great coverage at Petco Park. We'll talk more about that when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego Sports Station 97.3 The Fan. 12:17 on a Wednesday as we lead you up to opening day tomorrow. On opening day Thursday, Padres and Braves will start at 1:10 Pacific time. Make sure to get there early. They got the starting lineup announcements and introducing the 2025 San Diego Padres. Always a fun time when you're at opening day. You want to get down there extra early so you can come check us out. Ben Woods will start the day off at 6 a.m., going from 6 to 10. I'll be on from 10 to noon. Got a lot of giveaways to distribute to fans that come out to Baja Ricks tomorrow. I got a signed Randy Vasquez baseball we're giving away, as well as Xander Bogaerts bobblehead. So, and some other prizes as well. Should be a fun time with us at Baja Ricks coming up on Thursday, tomorrow, leading you up to Sam Levitt, the Padres pregame show, Padres baseball at 1 o'clock. And then after Sam Levitt's postgame show, it will be Chris Ello and Matt Scraby on Gwynn and Chris to finish up the day. We're talking a lot about the food items at Petco Park. And we talked about the banana bread pudding helmet, which looks delicious. I love how baseball stadiums have really gone into the food at a lot of different places. I guess Adam's got it too. But here's the food item, the banana bread pudding helmets that we saw earlier, with some banana pudding, some whipped cream, some vanilla wafers on top. Is that those walnuts on top or that bacon bits? I guess it could be either. It looks more like walnuts. Would be great. I'm gonna have to try that tomorrow. There's not a lot of things. I mean, I want to try a lot of different things, but this might be the one that I try tomorrow, for the Padres. But again, Sam Levitt is out there and showing off some of the different food items that they have at Petco Park. Moving on to other ones that he has posted now. We talked about the Papa Shot already at the loft. Here's the other one that they had too. That I think is great. And for people that are listening, obviously, you can check out on Sam's Twitter account at Sammy Lev some of the pictures. But we talked about the lob dog, which is a lobster roll on a hot dog, but we didn't really talk about the lobster-topped chorizo sausage. Maybe it's the same thing, but that was not what was described yesterday on the breakdown of the food. So not only is it a hot dog, but it is actually chorizo. It's a chorizo dog that is cutting long way down the middle, stuffed with lobster, like you would have in a lobster, with mayo and all that fun stuff. And it looks like paprika is on top. Comes with half of a lemon slice that was grilled for your enjoyment. Lobster top chorizo sausage. That looks delicious. Add it to the list of things I got to try at Petco Park. Pacific lobster roll. We talked about that yesterday. That's one of the new food items as well for the San Diego Padres at Petco Park. We showed that yesterday. It's a Baja version of a lobster roll. Lobster. Also looks delicious. Also comes with a half of a lemon slice that was cut in half. That was grilled, I should say. Also looks good. A couple other things too. I saw some people obviously were talking about vegetarian options and other things that don't involve meat. They have traditional shrimp ceviche in a bowl. That looks pretty good, as well as a vegetarian ceviche. Where it looks like it has some cauliflower in there to mix in with the tomatoes and the cucumbers and everything like that. A little cilantro on top. That looks delicious. Looks like it comes with a sauce too on the side. Also looks money. So vegetarian ceviche and traditional shrimp ceviche. And then to move a little bit further down the list here, a couple of new items at Puesto that look pretty good too. They have a Baja style fruit cup from Puesto now, which is obviously, select fruit, which looks like some pineapple, some mango, some watermelon. I think there's a cucumber in there. And it's got tahini in it in the little mixture. And it looks like it comes with a straw for some of the juices at the bottom from the fruit. So that looks pretty good. Little fresh fruit at a ball game for you from Puesto. So they do more than just tacos, obviously. And then they have, this is their California burrito. California burrito, obviously, with carne asada, fries. Looks like it comes with guac on this particular one. And the melted cheese on the outside of the tortilla. That is the chef's kiss right there. That crusty melted cheese on the outside of the tortilla the burrito is wrapped. That's pretty bomb. That looks delicious. Now I'm starving in the 12 o'clock hour. Yesterday, my meal driving up to Fullerton was beef jerky from 7-Eleven. I want to consume that instead. California burrito. The tortilla looks great. What makes a great California burrito, and any burrito in general, is the tortilla. So that's another one that Puesto has. And the last one, the carne asada fries down the sideline. Carne asada fries. Okay. Puesto with some carne asada fries. Fries, this looks like some sour cream, some guacamole, cilantro on top. Might be some queso fresca too. Also look delicious. Puesto coming out large with some of their menu items at Petco Park. Looks great. Awesome stuff from Puesto. And the last thing that we had from Sam, if I'm not mistaken, was the boba tea, which will be out at Gallagher Square. They have a section from Teaspoon out at Gallagher Square. They'll have other teas as well, but here's the boba tea that was also posted. You can see the Monster Coffee in the background as well. That's going to be a new place at Petco Park too. So a lot of great food items that we didn't really get to yesterday that we didn't know were also added. So there might be some special treats to go along that we were not expecting that you could check out at Petco Park tomorrow and check it out. Not only that, you got in the background of that teaspoon, you saw the mini donuts from Mini Donut Company. We talked a lot about that yesterday. Of course, there was a lot of other food items that will be will be there as well. And the dude in the chat, I think he's drinking a White Russian there. The dude abides. Do they play baseball at Petco? I think they do in the background, but I think the food is obviously the main draw for a lot of people. Also have a nice little sneak preview at some of the bobbleheads too from Sam Levitt as we zoom in on this. We got the Luis Ariz bobblehead as well as the Fernando Tatis Jr. bobblehead. And the Fernando Tatis Jr. bobblehead bat flips. It's got a bat in his hand, and then you could spin it, and it will flip around. And then the Luis Ariz bobblehead, his bat moves back and forth, which is pretty cool. So really cool stuff from the Padres. Again, they're showing it off to the media today. We will hopefully hear from Mike Schilt later on this afternoon. If not on this show, then on Gwynn and Chris. He meets with the media at about 25 minutes or so. Sam Levitt's down there checking all the new amenities at Petco Park. Should be a great time for everybody that goes down there for opening day. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Again, we will start our show at 10, and we'll go 10 to noon. And right after Ben and Woods, who starts the day at 6 in the morning, will be a great time down at Baja Rick's with some deals on drinks and a select breakfast menu from Baja Rick's as well. Leads you into the pregame show from the Loft. Go check out Sam Levitt at the Loft. It's open to the public unless there's an event going on. And I don't know if there is a special event for opening day for the Padres or not, but I know it's usually open to the public. They got brand new things over at the Western Metal Supply Company building. That was their main point of emphasis this offseason in terms of building up the stadium and remodels. Last year, it was Gallagher Square. Phenomenal job of Gallagher Square. I mean, nobody's got anything like that around Major League Baseball. I mean, the way that they did it with all the views, the sight lines that you have of the park with the hill, with it, kind of a deck out there as well with the statue of Tony Gwynn, the large area that kind of encapsulates everything with the, Beer Fest will be fun again in that area, but then also putting a separate, kids area behind, where the concert venues are, because I remember for Beer Fest, it would always shut down the park in the park where the kids play wiffle ball. And so they would be out, they'd be SOL on Friday nights when it was Beer Fest or Cocktail Fest or what have you. I love that they were able to do that. There was a lot of memories as a kid growing up, but A lot of great amenities at Petco Park. I can't wait to check out the new Western Metal Supply Company building. I mean, a building that I said yesterday, my grandfather, who used to work in construction here in San Diego, was a draftsman, built a lot of houses in Coronado and in East County. I mean, he used to go to the Western Metal Supply Company building for just building supplies all the time. So I love that that's a part of Petco Park and that they have incorporated that as a landmark in San Diego, and they've redone it, and it's going to look cool tomorrow. So if you haven't, I mean, we haven't seen it yet, it'll be fun to go check out all the new food items around Petco Park. Have a whole season to do it. Tomorrow might be crazy, but it's going to be great to be back at the ballpark. See, it seems like yesterday that the season just ended. That off season went by quick, and we're excited for Padres baseball. When we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, we previewed the East. We got to talk about the Centrals, AL and NL Central. We also, a little bit later, we'll talk about the Power 4 schools and this new kind of issue that they're finding with the new house settlement. All of a sudden, they might not have enough money to pay some of their basketball players because they're spending on football. It's not fair for the schools that have only basketball. Now, all of a sudden, there's a problem with the mid-major spending money. We'll talk more about that later on. Plus, actually, we got Scott Miller coming up next. Scott Miller will join the show up next to talk Padres baseball and get you a preview of Major League Baseball. Scott Miller, my guest next, as we roll on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
New at Mets games this year, the Dog Bowl. For $12.99, fans can get 12 hot dogs stuffed inside the Mets helmet.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. That's
seems
great.
cheap. $13 for 12 hot dogs?
That's great for a family.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to eat that many hot dogs, but
You bring your entire family to the game, though.
LeBron James takes swipe at Brian Windhorst, who he says claims to be his best friend. Yikes.
Wow.
Almost got in his cell.
Yeah.
Call for your free info kit. 800-611-5252. 800-611-5252. 800-611-5252.
The Barnes Firm. Play in the South Bay. 12:34 on a Wednesday afternoon, getting ready for opening day, one of the best days every single year, and we cannot have an opening day preview without having Scott Miller on the Braden Surprenant show. Scott, a longtime writer for a national baseball writer. He's a New York Times contributor. He has written a couple of books, and he's got one coming out in May of 2025, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well. But Scott Miller almost feels like Christmas Eve for all of us baseball fans out there. Thanks again for joining the show.
Happy to be with you, Braden. And yeah, that's a very good description. Christmas Eve indeed. You know, I may go a little corny at this time of the year, but you know, after 5 years or whatever it's been covering. In fact, I got to go back and add up how many open days tomorrow is going to be. It's in the ball 5, but that these years, it's still no better time of year. And right, opening day is it's like Christmas. People that love baseball, you know, with opening day comes the promise of having a game almost every day from now till the end of September. I would say, you know, it's like reading, you know, a great novel. You know, you read chapter 1 and then you can't wait to see what's in chapter 2. And, you know, we've got 162 chapters to come beginning tomorrow with the Padres and everybody else. And you add in the promise of summer right around I know it's in San Diego today. It doesn't look like it, but the warm weather is going to be here. The NCAA basketball tournament going on right now, opening day. All of this is why I say it is hard to get a better time of year than right now.
Yeah, and Scott, we're gonna call you back real quick. The connection was a little bit off. We really appreciate again Scott's time, and he says a lot of great things about opening day. I do want to ask him. I mean, he's been to a lot of opening days, and I'm curious if he remembers his first opening day or if he's got a favorite opening day. So Adam's going to redial up Scott Miller, and we're going to talk some Padres baseball as well as Major League Baseball and a lot of storylines heading into opening day. And it's always a great time for all of us that are baseball fans as we try to get the line all figured out. I think it sounds a little bit better now. And we're good to go. So, Scott, we're able to get most of that, obviously, of the kind of setup. I know you've been to a lot of opening days. I know you're going to calculate how many opening days you've been to. Do you have a most memorable opening day, or do you remember the first time you ever went to opening day and what that experience was like?
You know, it's a good question. I mean, I have a couple favorites probably. As a kid growing up in Michigan, I went to Tiger Stadium and I loved the Tigers. And then flash forward to becoming an adult and becoming a baseball writer. I covered the Minnesota Twins for 6 years, like 1994 to 99. I think it was the last year, 1999, the Twins opened in Detroit. And, that one is memorable because it was the last opening day in Tiger Stadium before they demolished that. Such a sacred ballpark there that was. And also, I mean, as a kid, I never went to opening day, and I always imagined what it might be like because in Tiger Stadium in Detroit, it's same thing. It's like a national holiday, and anyway, that one. Oddly enough, I did not go to opening day the day Petco Park opened. Was that 06, I think, or 05?
I think it was
05.
04, 05 there. I think 05.
I think it was 05, and the reason I missed opening day at Petco because I was, as you mentioned in the intro, I was a national baseball writer at that time at CBSSports.com, and I covered the 04 Red Sox run to their first World Series, in forever, breaking the curse of the Bambino, and so that was in 04. So 05 opening day, I was in Camden Yards in Baltimore with the Red Sox as they opened their defense of the World Series title. So, that's a memorable one. I was in Cincinnati. Again, the years get muddled, but it was Lou Pinilla's first year as a Chicago Cubs manager. And so we're in Cincinnati. I was there with the Cubs Reds. And opening day in Cincinnati, by the way, they're the original first ever professional baseball team. And to this day, opening day in Cincinnati, they have a parade through the city, which is so awesome. An opening day baseball parade through the city. The fact that they still do that is terrific. But anyway, so the Cubs are there. That was the main reason I was in Cincinnati. And Lou Piniella is ready to debut as the Cubs manager. And right before the game started, came news that the Cubs, the ownership of the Cubs was putting the team up for sale. And, it was like, welcome to the Cubs, Lou Piniella. He laughed about it. He was like, this is obviously well before they won the 2016 World Series. And, we had some gallows humor laughs in his office after that opening day game about, well, yeah, welcome. Your bright new future with the Cubs, and now the team's on the market to be sold. So that was also, by the way, Josh Hamilton was coming back after his addiction for Cincinnati, and the Reds pinch hit him in like the 7th inning, and everybody kind of knew the tough times he had been through. And when he batted in the 7th inning, pinch hit, the entire sold-out stadium gave him a standing O, and that was a really cool moment. It's always special San Diego opening days. I go back to when, Jerry Coleman and Ted Leitner and everybody wore tuxedos on opening day, and that's kind of gone by the wayside now. But so many opening day memories, and it's great because it shows, it's all about the hope of the new year, and everybody's optimistic and happy. And it's also kind of like the first day of school. You gather again at the ballpark, and you're happy to see all your old friends.
Yeah, it's a great time. We're talking with Scott Miller, national baseball writer and New York Times contributor, also a multi-author, and he's got a book coming out, why baseball managers matter and always will, which will come out in May of 2025, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I remember that I was at the game, the first night at Petco Park when David Wells threw that first pitch, and I mentioned this earlier in the week, but the only thing I remember from that game, because I was a little bit younger, was all the flashing lights for the first pitch at Petco Park, something that I don't know how many times you'll see anymore in this day and age. So it's very interesting to say nonetheless. A lot of great storylines going into the MLB season this year, Scott. Obviously, we're paying attention more to the Padres. I think a lot of noise from the Los Angeles Dodgers up north, and how it's almost a foregone conclusion about them potentially winning a World Series. I want to start in the American League a little bit before we dive into the National League. And from the American League side, I think a lot of people are picking the Boston Red Sox in the AL East to take over the division with some of the moves they made. Baltimore, obviously very young. Yankees maybe a step back. How do you see the AL East playing out? And from an overall perspective, who seems to be the team coming into the season with the most expectations in the American League?
Yeah, there's a lot of expectations on the Red Sox this year. I'm not sure they're going to, I'm not quite as high on them as a lot of people, but, there's a combination. The Red Sox, for the first time in about 5 years, actually are trying this year. And I say that by way of, they went out and traded for Garrett Crochet, the great young starter that was with the White Sox last year. They finally spent some money on Alex Bregman. They brought him in. So they finally, after years in which their owners seemed to have gotten bored after winning 3 World Series, and they seemed like they were spending their time on other projects like the soccer team they own. The Red Sox they've actually tried to do some things this year to win. So the Red Sox are going to be better. The Yankees, obviously, they took some hits in spring training. I still don't understand Giancarlo Stanton. He had barely set foot in spring training before he left to go get examined because he had not one but 2 sore elbows. And that to me still is an odd thing that I know Giancarlo Stanton, the slugger, is and has been fragile throughout his career, but man, 2 elbows, both of them sore. I don't know what he did all off season, but that's odd. And DJ LeMahieu's hurt again. And then, Garrett Cole, of course, they lost for the season. Luis Gil, who had the good rookie year last year, he'll open on the injured list. Clark Schmidt, another starter on the injured list. So, and obviously the Yankees lost Juan Soto, but I didn't think that was that big a deal. I mean, I mean, he's a great hitter and all, but it will be interesting to see Aaron Judge. He'll be surrounded by right now Austin Wells and Cody Bellinger. Wells in front of him, Bellinger behind him. That's a little different than Soto and Giancarlo Stanton protecting him. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what kind of year Aaron Judge has. But I think the AL East is wide open. As I said, the Red Sox certainly are kind of the sexy pick to win this year. And, I do think they'll be better. It'll be interesting to see. I think the kid Christian Campbell is going to win the second base job. So that'll be one fun thing to watch on the Red Sox, how he responds to the pressure. But, pitching's better. Walker Buehler's another guy they brought in. Certainly the Yankees' injuries have opened the door to the division. The Orioles, their new ownership has been a little disappointing because, as you mentioned, Braden, they have so much good young talent in Baltimore, but they lost Corbin Burns from the rotation, really didn't go out and spend much money to add to their young nucleus. So I think, Toronto could be, Baltimore could be lacking a little bit. Toronto always disappoints. I think it's going to be wide open. I could see Boston maybe sneaking in, but I won't be surprised if the Yankees figure it out and put things back together.
Talking with Scott Miller, a national baseball writer and New York Times contributor, joining us on the Braden Surprenant Show right now as we get you really ready for opening day tomorrow. It's going to be a fun time at the ballpark here in San Diego. Kind of on the AL East, which will also lead to the AL West in a sense of two teams in the American League are going to be playing in minor league ballparks. That seems to be a glaring issue for Major League Baseball. Rob Manfred has talked about how they want to expand, but they don't want to do that until they figure out local stadium issues. Obviously, with the Rays and the Hurricanes, a little bit different than the A's, who are trying to move. How do you think that's going to work with Major League Baseball this year? The fact that two teams are playing in minor league stadiums, and there's really no sight for them to be not playing in minor league stadiums in the foreseeable future, playing out in the hot sun in Sacramento in the middle of summer, and also the humidity in Tampa in the middle of the summer. This has to be a big black eye for Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it's certainly not optimal. There's no doubt about that. And baseball is trying to do the best they can to sort of put lipstick on the pig. But we'll see. In Tampa, the rain absolutely could be a huge issue. The Rays usually do a good job of putting a team together, under the radar players. The whole is usually greater than the sum of the parts. But it'll be a little more difficult for them this year, not having an air-conditioned dome. They over 81 home games, playing in that humidity, that'll be taxing. And, the rain delays, that'll be taxing. And so, the Rays are going to be up against it this year, no doubt. And the Athletics in Sacramento, the big thing with that ballpark is going to be the grass. They were going to put artificial turf in. The Players Union balked. They got sod down. But, remember the AAA team, the Sacramento River Cats, San Francisco Giants AAA team, they're playing a full home schedule as well on that turf under much of the summer, 100-plus degrees, while the A's play their 81 games there. So I think they're going to end up having to replace that sod multiple times this year. They're going to have to be artful in how they do it so they don't, because their games are almost every day. Hopefully, I think I'm a little partial. I have some family up in Sacramento, and I think it's a great town, and I'd love to see baseball succeed there. The Sacramento Kings have a really nice thing going, and I know they'd like baseball to if the Athletics move on to Vegas as expected, that the guy that basically got the Athletics to Sacramento is the owner of the Kings, and he'd love a baseball team to move there. So I know they're going to put their best foot forward in Sacramento throughout the summer, do everything they can to make it a success. One thing is I spent some time with the Athletics last week of February when I was over in spring training, and they spent a little bit of money. Luis Severino is now in that rotation. They've got some good young talent like the Rooker kid and JJ Bleday, and
they were better last year than they were 2 years ago, and I think they're going to be better yet this year. I'm not going to go all crazy and predict a playoff appearance or anything, but I do think they could be flirting right around the edges of the wild card race come August if everything goes right for the A's. So I think that'll add a little excitement as well, and maybe turn into a feel-good story instead of a negative story of they're playing in a minor league park. But then the other issue is if they do somehow squeeze into the wild card playoffs, then we've got a whole other issue then because, baseball hasn't said where they're going to play in the postseason. It probably won't be in a minor league park.
Yes, exactly. I mean, could you imagine if the American League Championship Series was between the A's and the Rays? Who knows what could potentially happen for Major League Baseball if one of those teams ends up going to the World Series. So obviously something that they don't necessarily want to see. Let's move on to the National League a little bit. I mean, obviously we're focused on the National League West, but I think the NL East is going to be the toughest division to play in and night out with some pretty heavy hitters. Atlanta got healthy during the offseason and look to bounce back after a year where even though they didn't have a lot of players healthy at the end of the year, still made the postseason. The Mets obviously went and got Juan Soto. Phillies have kept a lot of their mashers still. Should be a very difficult division. Might be the best division in baseball, at least in the top three, Scott.
Yeah, very well might be. No doubt about that. And, Atlanta puts a really good product on the field every year. I think the world of their president of baseball operations, Alex Anthopoulos. He's really, really good. And that rotation, I mean, right now, Spencer Strider is opening on the injured list, but, hopefully he comes back. But, Chris Sale, Reynaldo Lopez, they've got some guys that can pitch. And it's kind of fun in San Diego here, the Padres opening against the Braves because, as all Padre baseball fans remember, the playoffs last October started with the Braves being in town. And it's kind of fun, Chris Sale going tomorrow for Atlanta because, as you recall, he was supposed to go, it was a game one, I think, of the playoffs last October, and then an injury knocked him out and he couldn't go. So in a way, it's kind of like the symmetry here in San Diego of picking up where we last left off. I know the Dodgers came in after the Braves, but, to a degree, it's kind of like picking up, like I say, where they left off. Braves are good. Mets are going to be really interesting for me. I mean, we'll see. I mean, Juan Soto got that contract he wants. He's got the big stage he wants in New York. He's got every opportunity to, step in and prove that he's, one of the great, not just one of the greatest now, but one of the greatest ever. And we'll see if he can lead the Mets, further than they've been in a long time. And, with Francisco Lindor and they re-signed Pete Alonso and, the Mark Vientos kid really came along last year. It really interesting to me with the Mets. I don't know how the rotation is going to be. I mean, their opening day starter is going to be Clay Holmes. He's the guy that mostly has been the Yankees closer the last 5 or 6 years. And they sent him as a free agent, made him a starter, and he's going to pitch opening day. So the Mets, to me, are kind of like the usual Mets. They've got talent, and they could have a fantastic year, or they could go all Mets on us and disappoint, as they so often do. Phillies, as you said, they've kind of got the same core as the last few years, which is good if you look and see how the Phillies have gone to the playoffs the last few years. But it might be bad in that the Phillies haven't been able to get to the promised land and win a World Series with this crew. And look, there's a ton of talent from Schwarber to Trey Turner to Bryce Harper to Alec Boehm, Zach Wheeler on the mound, Aaron Nola on the mound. But, the one knock you hear from scouts, I heard this in spring training, it's like, well, how come the Phillies, they're really good, but in the playoffs, they just haven't been able to finish the job with this crew. And, scouts talk about it's an easy lineup to pitch to, or at least easier than others, because they're all such fastball hitters, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber and crew. And if you start spinning that breaking stuff up, that's where they get into trouble a little bit. So can the Phillies overcome that this year, especially if they're there in October? That'll be the big challenge.
Scott, appreciate the time as always. We got a couple of seconds here. I do want you to get your new book out there, Skipper: Why Baseball Managers Matter and Always Will. I heard it's coming out in May, and where you can pre-order your book.
Yeah, thank you, Braden. May 13th is publication day. It's all available for pre-order now. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, just Google wherever you buy books, and it should be there. Skipper: Why Baseball Managers Matter and Why They Always Will, under my name. And getting really excited about it. It's been about a 2.5-year project. I talked to probably 200 people easily for this thing, managers, ex-managers, executives, ex-executives, players, retired players, all about the job of managing and what it was like back in the 70s when computers first started and were rudimentary things being offered to the public, to now where computers are humming along and baseball and the rest of the world depends on computers. And
Scott, got to run. I appreciate it, though.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Braden.
much. We're going to hour number 3 or 4 next.
Hey, Chris Ello from Gwynn and Chris. The Padres have begun their march to a world title, and we'll be with you every step of the way. Padres news all year long on your number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Hit by a truck? Call the Barnes firm now. 1-800-8-MILLION. They have a San Diego office near you. They can help. It could be the best call you ever make.
The Barnes firm. Call 1-800-8-MILLION.
Paid spokesperson, West Broadway, San Diego.
Join the Candy Crush All-Stars tournament now.
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play.
Make it to the live final for your chance to win a share of $1 million. Play Candy Crush now.
Get your game on, go play.
Selected level 5 plus 18 plus. In-game event ends 0300 EDT 27 April. Win the in-game event. Receive an invite to the live contest in June in California. Requires U.S. travel. For terms and conditions, visit 2.king.com/terms.
Welcome to AT&T. How can I help?
Hey, I thought I could trust my twins with my phone, but they outnumber me, man.
Whoa, that's a lot of glitter paint. Let's trade
lives.
At AT&T, everyone can trade in an old or glittered iPhone any year, any condition, and save on a new iPhone. Ask how to get iPhone 16 Pro on us. New and existing customers. Savings vary by device and trade-in combinations. Restrictions apply. See att.com for details. AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
Baseball is back in the East Village. Join 97.3 The Fan on Saturday, March 29th as we broadcast live from Tom's Watch Bar on 8th and J from 10 a.m. to 3:15 p.m. with Ben and Woods, followed by Braden, Scraby, and Chris Ello. Check out all the baseball action while enjoying Blue Moon and Coors Light features along with delicious food like Tom's famous prime rib dip sandwich. That's Saturday, March 29th at Tom's Watch Bar on 8th and J Street with 97.3 The Fan. Brought to you by Blue Moon, 2025 Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Celebrate responsibly.
Since 2003, Wounded Warrior Project has helped post 9/11 veterans adjust back to civilian life. Through specialized programs, they begin healing their bodies and minds while regaining a sense of camaraderie. Learn more at woundedwarriorproject.org/possible.
What could you do with an extra $75,000 right now, or even a couple $100,000? If you own a home, you can get that money in less than a week with Loan Pronto. Guys, it's Woodsy. Loan Pronto, the leader in quickly converting your home's equity into cold hard cash so you can pay off all your credit cards or start that home remodel. Loan Pronto has several easy options to let you access the cash from your home. There's virtually no paperwork, no cumbersome process, no junk fees, and often no appraisal. Listen, the average homeowner now has over $300,000 in equity. That's your money. Use it. One client got $150,000 out, paid off their credit cards, 2 car loans, and a personal loan, cutting their monthly expenses by $1,500. You can get approved in as little as 1 day. So act now with no hard credit pull up front. LoanPronto.com, 619-207-4336. Get the money that you need for anything by calling 619-207-4336 or go to LoanPronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Bring spring to your door with Target Circle 360. Get all you need for Easter hosting, spring get-togethers, and more with unlimited same-day delivery through Target Circle 360. From Easter basket goodies to fresh florals, getting everything the same day is easy. Open the Target app and bring the magic of the season to your door with unlimited same-day delivery through Target Circle 360. Visit target.com/circle or the Target app for more details. Subscription required. Same-day delivery is subject to terms. Applies to orders over $35.
Mom, I need to lay low for a few days.
Lay low? What's going on?
I only paid for this Hyundai Tucson.
Christopher Allen Lynch.
Deal's so right, it almost feels wrong. Get the car or SUV you want at the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Right now, get 2.99% APR for 72 months on the Hyundai Santa Fe, Tucson, or Elantra. Visit your local Hyundai dealer today. Offers end March 31st. Call 562-314-4603 for details.
Hey, you can watch 97.3 The Fan from sunup to sundown on YouTube. All of your favorite fan talk shows are streaming on YouTube. Just search 97.3 The Fan on YouTube and smash that subscribe button today. KWFN and KWFN HD1 San Diego.
Hey, it's Chris Ello. We talk Padres, but I like to steer the discussion in the direction of the Aztecs as well. Listen for yourself. Gwen and Chris, 2 to 6 p.m. weekdays on 97.3 The Fan.
And Odyssey Sports Station.
Final hour of the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Trying to reset the camera on the stream. Again, thanks to all of you that are a part of the stream on YouTube. Thanks to everybody listening, driving around in their cars. We're getting ready for opening day tomorrow. Thanks again to Scott Miller. Kind of ran out of time there, but obviously is promoting his new book that comes out in May involving the why managers matter. And I'm not one of those people that is super believer in that, but I'd be interested to read the points in his book. Be kind of cool to see about all the difference, the human element and the human side of things when you look at building a baseball team and everything like that before all the computers came in and before the money ball and all that fun stuff. So very interested to check that out. More interested, and even more interested in opening day. It was fun talking with Scott Miller about all the opening days that he had been a part of and some of the cool ones that he's been fortunate enough to see live in person. I've only been to a handful of opening days, all of them from a working perspective, but it's still a blessing each and every time we get to go out to opening day. And if you ever have the opportunity to go to opening day, do it. And then on top of that, always cherish the opportunity because it's pretty cool. I mean, growing up as a kid, obviously you had school, so most of the time on opening day. So it's good to be out there and be able to watch the Padres game 1 with all the hope of the season. Hope springs eternal. Always the saying around this time of the year, and I'm excited for the Padres season. We talked about it at the beginning of the year in terms of beginning of the show today about what needs to happen in order for the Padres to make the playoffs and for the Padres to make the postseason. You know, some people called in and talked about certain players that need to be able to play at a high level. You got to be able to get some production out of the bottom 3 spots in the order. I think that's the biggest hole for the Padres is the final 3 spots in the batting order, 7, 8, 9. And that is the biggest unknown of the season. MLB.com put together the biggest unknowns of the season for each team. Each beat writer for MLB.com put that together. And the biggest unknown, obviously, for the Padres season is the final 3 guys in the batting order. You look at it, it's usually never a big part of batting orders around baseball in terms of not a lot of teams have a solid 7, 8, 9. I mean, really good teams obviously have that. But when you look at the Padres 7, 8, 9, there's a lot of question marks. And obviously the question marks come with the bench that we talked about earlier this week on Monday when they announced the roster for the San Diego Padres. And not an official roster yet. We'll get that sometime tomorrow. But guys like Yuli Gurriel making the team over a guy like Connor Joe. You know, Jose Iglesias is on the team. Gavin Sheets made the team. Martín Maldonado is the backup catcher for the San Diego Padres. And you look at players like Brandon Lockridge having to come in and be able to do some damage for San Diego. These are all players that are going to have to contribute in order for you to get to where you want to be. And there is unknown right now with the 7, 8, 9 spots. We don't know if Yuli Gurriel is going to be able to play at a level that's better than his last couple of years. If he could play at a level like he was in 2021 where he won a batting title. I mean, I don't think he's going to get to that level ever again. But what's he going to be like at age 41? I mean, that has a drastic effect on how the Padres do in the 2025 season. I mean, if Yuli plays anything close to 2021, Padres are going to be in really good shape. It's going to be a great pickup for them. But if he plays like Rougned Odor and Robinson Cano and Nelson Cruz and Matt Carpenter, and he's gone off the team by May, it's a little bit of a different story. I mean, how much of a leash are you going to give a guy like Yuli Gurriel to start the season? You get him all the way through May? I mean, meanwhile, you got Tirso Ornelas and Connor Joe in AAA ready to go should you make a different move with Yuli Gurriel. But how much patience do you have with Yuli as being part of the team for the first couple of months of the season? You give him 1 month, give him 2 months, give him 3 months. You try to keep him on the team as long as possible. I mean, it's some of the questions that need to be answered during the first portion of the season. I think Jose Iglesias will be fine. Is he going to be a spot start guy? Defensive replacement only? He's part of that 7, 8, 9 in the batting order. Are you going to get any type of production out of the catching position? It's been a couple of years since Elias Diaz was an all-star. And he's worked on his defense a lot. But offensively for the Padres, again, you can't have your number 9 spot in the order just be an AO, an automatic out. And Martin Maldonado's been an automatic out for the last couple of seasons in Houston and in Chicago. I mean, he was a member of the White Sox last year. Arguably one of the worst baseball teams of all time. Those are part of the unknowns of the San Diego Padres season for 2025. There are some glaring holes to this roster if you want to pick it apart. I mean, we talked about some of the things that need to go right. Obviously, they need to get production out of their bench pieces. They need guys like Randy Vasquez and Kyle Hart to kind of fill the void until Yu Darvish comes back. They're going to need multiple starting pitchers in AAA to come up here and make some starts, albeit a Matt Waldron who starts on the injured list. Steven Kolek is going to have to make some starts this year for the Padres. You got to stay as healthy as possible throughout the entire year. I mean, if the Padres sustain the injuries that a team like the Yankees have sustained already, there is some serious trouble because there isn't a lot of depth with this Padres team. I think their 26-man roster is very balanced, but it doesn't have a lot of depth, and there are not young prospects knocking on the door in AAA. You got Tirso Ornelas, who's top 10 in the Padres organization, but your main prospects down in the minor leagues are still well within the minor leagues, despite what the projections show for some of those players, like a Leo DeVries, like an Ethan Salas. I mean, they're supposed to aggressively move up the ranks in the minor leagues, and they very might as well do that. They very well might do that, but they're not right there knocking on the door, ready to fill a void of a veteran that might not be able to get the job done. I mean, Connor Joe's going to get some at-bats for this team at some point in time, even though he's starting in AAA. But the 7, 8, 9 positions are really the biggest unknowns of the Padres season. Bullpen's been okay. They've been pretty solid. I mean, what are you getting out of what happens with Robert Suarez? Robert Suarez is in a contract here. Robert Suarez is a free agent at the end of the year, potentially, if he opts out, which I think a lot of people are convinced that he will, because with his fastball and pitching over 100 miles an hour and being a top echelon closer, he could go get a pretty big contract. Now, if he does not do very well, where are the Padres at there? If he pitches like he was at the end of the season last year, Padres might be in trouble in terms of what do you do with him? Maybe he opts back into his contract. I don't think that's going to be the case. You have a couple of options back there in the bullpen, but again, a little bit of lack of depth. There's a lot of dice rolling for the Padres this season. It worked out last year with guys stepping up like Jurickson Profar and Jackson Merrill, but that's not necessarily going to be the case every year. For every shot in the dark offseason pickup in a Profar Solano and a Peralta is a shot in the dark pickup of a Rougned Odor, a Robinson Cano, and a Nelson Cruz mixed with a Matt Carpenter. Can the Padres make a playoff appearance in an odd year the last couple of seasons? I mean, they've made the postseason in 3 out of the last 5 seasons, all in even years. Made it in 2020, disappointed in 2021. Made it in 2022 to the NLCS, disappointed in 2023. Made it to the playoffs in 2024. What's going to happen in 2025? Padres looking to go to consecutive playoff appearances since that 05-06 mark. It's been a long time. They won 90 games in 2010, didn't even make the playoffs. With the way the National League sets up, the competition's going to be there for the Padres all season long. And I've mentioned it before. I'll keep mentioning it again ad nauseum. You can't worry about the Los Angeles Dodgers. You got to be worried about the Arizona Diamondbacks. I mean, a lot of predictions and previews had the Padres finishing 3rd behind the Diamondbacks and just missing out on the postseason. So a lot of the unknowns for the Padres, especially in the 7, 8, 9 spot in the order, really affects what the Padres have to do in order to make the postseason in 2025. You need guys in contract years to have big years for the Padres. Michael King, the build off of last season as a starting pitcher. Dylan Cease to go out there and even as the number 2 pitch like he was as an ace. Need Yu Darvish to try to pitch as many games as he can, and it might be later in the season, but he's got to be able to pitch this year because you lost Joe Musgrove to the entire season. You need the chance that you took on Nick Pivetta to rise to the occasion and be part of that rotation. Kyle Hart, Randy Vasquez, Matt Waldron, those are 3 guys, and Steven Kolek, 4 guys that need to balance out the rotation the entire year. There's a lot of question marks still with the Padres. I'm still excited for the season. I think it's going to be a good year. But when you look at the way everything's played out and you look at the roster for the Padres and you look at how everybody else in the National League is going to be good, it's not going to be a walk in the park to the playoffs. It's going to do, there's going to be some challenges along the way. How many wins do the Padres get? I got them at 86 wins. How many wins do you have them at? 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Who has to have a good year for the Padres to make the postseason? We'll talk about that as well as we kind of finish up the show today. We'll try to get you some previews. If not, we'll preview some Major League Baseball divisions again tomorrow on opening day. Again, we're going to be live at Baja Ricks tomorrow, and we will take you up to first pitch as the Padres pregame show will get underway at about noon, and then we will have Padres baseball back in 2025. Should be a fun time. I'm Braden Surprenant. It's the Braden Surprenant Show rolling on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Hello. Seen a lot of different photos and videos of Petco Park today from a lot of the local media in town, like Sam Levitt, but also some other local media throughout San Diego that are posting cool photos of the new rooftop at the Western Metal Supply Company building. The new loft looks awesome. So I think a lot of people are getting excited to go check out Petco Park tomorrow. I know I am. I can't wait to get inside Petco Park tomorrow and get ready for the new season. I mean, they got the new loft where Sammy Lev will be set up for the pregame show, and the videos of the new entertainment suite and the area up there looks awesome. They got a Padres pinball machine now. They got the Pop-A-Shot. They got the staircase to the top deck. I mean, there's a lot of cool things with the new amenities at Petco Park. There's more photos of the food. We've talked enough about the food as well, so won't have to worry about that too much. But that being said, there are some other things that we wanted to focus on today, and we missed some of the topics, but we can always use them later on in the week. I mean, tomorrow's going to be all Padres. Friday's going to be a lot of Padres mixed with some other weekend stuff. I mean, Sweet 16 is going on this weekend. Thursday, Friday, Sweet 16 matchup. Saturday, Sunday, the Elite Eight, leading into the Final Four coming up the week after with college basketball. And with college basketball, obviously, a lot of people upset about San Diego State and the way that they finished and what the future is for the Aztecs. I think, and Mark Ziegler from the San Diego Union Tribune was on with Gwen and Chris yesterday, and I was able to listen to that interview on the way up to Fullerton when I went up to call the USD Cal State Fullerton baseball game. And Mark had a lot of great pieces from that particular interview. A lot of great comments. Explains very well how the Mesa Foundation works. Explains very well how San Diego State is able to get NIL money. But also at the same time, there's a big question by Chris Ello that I think is a question that I hear all the time, just like Chris does. But for a city like San Diego and a market the size of San Diego, which albeit not a big media market, but it's still a major city in the United States, how does a city like San Diego not be able to find that big Aztec alumni whale that can donate a ton of money like a lot of the other schools at Power 5 programs are able to do for their NIL collective? And this is what Mark Ziegler said as he explains how San Diego State basketball has been able to add in the Mesa Foundation and how everything works.
You know, the Mesa Foundation has about 1,500 members, and they realized very early on there was no whale. They tried. They just said, look, let's go find 2 or 3 whales, and that will be our Mesa Foundation. Right. And they realized they weren't going to find them. So they said, now we've got to go nickel and dime. They've got 1,500 people. They need to get to like 5,000. But just to get to 1,500 to me is incredible.
Yeah.
And those are people, 80% of those people are giving less than $1,000, I believe. And so the problem in San Diego, and I'm going to overgeneralize here, I'm probably going to piss off people in Lubbock, Texas, but I think the perspectives and the priorities here are different. We live in a very blue state. We live in a state that is very caring, for better or for worse. And people who have lots of money are looking at this. I can give it to an 18-year-old kid who probably doesn't deserve it. He's already getting a free education and may or may not be any good, and there's really no return on investment. Or I can give it to a homeless shelter. I can give it to a foster kid's home. I can give it to cancer research. And so I think there's a lot more of that going on in this community than there is in many others in the South or in small college towns. Remember, this is a basketball program that is rare and that is really popular in a big city. Most of the big cities don't have big-time college basketball programs. It's all in small college towns. And the people there, their entire identity is wrapped up in that college and its success. And so I think they're much more apt to giving a larger amount or larger percentage of their disposable income to a college basketball program than people here are. And I don't know if you can criticize people here for thinking that way, but I think there's something to that, and that makes it just a little bit more of a challenge here. Plus, we don't have a culture of athletic giving. We just don't. It's not like they do in the South. So those are all hurdles that they have to get over, and they're getting over them, but they're just not getting over. Every time they get over them, the goalpost moves.
Yeah, that seems to be the biggest problem for San Diego State. They've done a great job in building a collective with 1,500 people in it. I mean, that's a pretty remarkable job, and the fact that they have no whales. And as Mark Ziegler mentioned, a lot of the contributors to the Mesa Foundation are donating less than $100. And they're still able to accumulate the amount of money that they have in order to try to keep some players. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, there's schools that just the different budgets and different levels. It just shows that the last conference realignment was crucial to mid-major programs that were trying to find a new home. I mean, you can say what you want about, and they mentioned the Power 3 in that interview at some point in time. And they mentioned that the Big 12 is part of they said Power 3. I mean, I've heard Power 4, I've heard Power 5. I think a lot of people are transitioning out of Power 5 to Power 4 with the Big 10, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12. But they mentioned the Power 3 in basketball. Power 3 in basketball, they mentioned, was the SEC, the Big 10, and the Big 12. Now, everybody knows, I got my Fighting Frog shirt on. I'm a biased TCU Horned Frog supporter as an alumni. And they're in the Big 12 Conference. The Big 12 Conference was one of the conferences that was about to be left behind if they didn't expand. And they went out and they got 4 schools just like San Diego State. And now those schools are considered power teams. Houston, BYU, UCF, and Cincinnati. Those are 4 schools that are very similar to San Diego State. BYU to an extent, but with BYU, they were in the same conference as the Aztecs for years. For years. To the point where everybody in town strongly dislikes BYU, unless they have an affiliation with BYU in some capacity. Right? The old Aztec BYU rivalry game. I mean, the Jimmer Fredette, Kawhi Leonard rivalry. It's a group of 5 school mid-major program forever. In fact, before the move to the Big 12, for them, which was 2 years ago, they were playing in the same conference in basketball as the University of San Diego down the street. They were the West Coast Conference, and they weren't dominating the West Coast Conference either. They were in the middle of the pack in the WCC in most of their sports, with the exception of, I think, women's volleyball and women's soccer, where they were pretty good. Men's basketball was okay in the West Coast Conference. They're in the Sweet 16 now. Not only do they have a big collective, obviously, with the Church of Latter-day Saints being a major contributor, right? So it's a nationwide school, so a little bit different. I understand their resources might be a little bit different than San Diego State, but that is a program that you were competing with for a long time, and now they're in a power conference. Let's look at Houston. Houston and San Diego State, to me, and really Cincinnati, are like the same setup. They are state schools that are in major cities, and as Mark Ziegler said, it's not very common to see a college basketball power in a major city like Houston and San Diego State. So those schools, I mean, I think they're very comparable. And Cincinnati. Those are all schools that are very similar. 2 schools that San Diego State's actually played in bowl games in the last decade. But if Houston can do it and Cincinnati can do it, I don't know why San Diego State can't do it. Again, they have more resources now because they jumped into a power conference. Conference realignment that just happened was a huge deal that San Diego State needed to get into a power conference. And the pack, whatever it is not the answer. And that's why I was an advocate for so long in this time slot that whatever the cost was and whatever the price was, you had to get your ass in the Big 12 or get your ass in a power conference. And the Pac-12 on a sinking ship was never going to get it done. Because you knew USC and UCLA were never going to accept San Diego State if they stayed. And if they left, there went the conference. And when they decided to leave, and the carrot was dangled about potentially filling in for USC or UCLA, you should have seen the writing on the wall. As soon as the Aztecs were to show up, they weren't going to stick together. It was a major miss by San Diego State. Now, in their defense, they have done a good job in finding an avenue to at least get themselves out of the Mountain West. But the power conferences, they have all the cards right now because of that new house settlement where they can share up to $20 million with their athletic programs. The problem with that, though, is most of it goes to football, including basketball schools like Duke. And the schools right now that are scaring the Power 4 schools when it comes to basketball, those mid-majors that don't have football, they're going to be able to outspend teams like Duke. And it's got a lot of people worried in Power 4 conferences. Oh, it's not fun anymore, is it? How does that affect San Diego State? How are they going to do their budget? They've opted into the house settlement. It's very intriguing budgetary between the Aztecs and who gets more money when they decide to go in the house settlement. And why is Duke afraid of Xavier? We'll talk about it when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 1:34 on a Wednesday. It is opening day eve here in San Diego. It's great to have opening day back, or Major League Baseball back, coming up tomorrow. Going to be a fun time for us over at Baja Ricks as we get the day started at 6 a.m. with Ben and Woods, and then I'll be on from 10 to 2 or 10 to 12, and then Sam Levitt will jump on the airwaves from 12 to 1 to lead you up to Jesse Agler and Tony Gwynn Jr. for first pitch of Padres baseball, first pitch of the 2025 season. I do want to mention that we will also be out live on Saturday for a special show. Special show on Saturday as, we're going to have all three of our shows at the East Village Block Party on Saturday, starting in the morning at 10 a.m. with Ben and Woods. And then followed by that, I will be on with myself, obviously, with Braden Surprenant show from 12 to 2. And then coming up at right after from 2 to 4, will be, 12 to 2 to 3:15 will be Gwynn and Chris as you get you ready for Sam Levitt for the pregame show on Saturday. Earlier start time on Saturday as well. I think it's like a 4:15 start. Game's on Fox, so it's a big time. But here's the deal. And Chris said he's going to eat all the sandwiches at Tom's Watch Bar. I'm there first, sucker. I'm gonna be eating the famous prime rib dips. You can join us on this Saturday as we broadcast live at Tom's Watch Bar on 8th and J from 10 a.m. to 3:15 for the East Village Block Party. Ben and Woods will hit the air at 10 a.m., followed by the Braden Surprenant Show, myself, and Gwynn and Chris. Check out all the baseball action while enjoying Blue Moon and Coors Light, all along with delicious food like Tom's famous prime rib dip sandwich. That's this Saturday at Tom's Watch Bar on 8th and J Street. Brought to you by Blue Moon. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Celebrate responsibly. I want to mention that this hour on 97.3 The Fan is brought to you by Frozen Ropes San Diego. Hey, parents, here's a message from Coach Kurt. Frozen Ropes is your child 6 to 12 years old. Their baseball summer league is the perfect fit for your player. Starting June 16th through August 17th, Summer League includes 8 practices, 8 games. Register by March 31st and save $100. Go to SanDiegoFrozenRopes.com. Again, Braden Surprenant here on the Braden Surprenant Show, and we were talking about the wildness that is college athletics. And again, Mark Ziegler joined Gwynn and Chris yesterday. I thought he had a great interview with Gwynn and Chris explaining the Mesa Foundation and how everything impacts San Diego State as they try to keep as many players as possible. And as you know, and from a positive standpoint, a guy like Brian Dutcher is always going to replenish his roster. But the problem is trying to keep said roster. I mean, we're this day and age of college athletics and the way the system is with players going out and getting a bag, it's going to be tough for San Diego State to compete with that. They've been able to raise a decent amount of money, but it's going to be tough for San Diego State to compete at this level, especially with the new house settlement. Now, here's the thing with the new house settlement. There's a lot of payouts going out, but the biggest thing to get from it is schools are now allowed to share the revenue that they receive from TV contracts up to $20 million with their student athletes spread across all of their sports. And what a lot of schools are going to do is, despite basketball being a big payout with the NCAA tournament, football is still a driving force for college athletics. Football has always been the driving force for college athletics. And football will continue to be the driving force of payouts for college athletics. If it wasn't for football, we wouldn't even be in this situation. So there's some pros and cons of it, of course. I mean, what drove Texas and Oklahoma to go to the SEC? It wasn't basketball. It was definitely football. Same thing with USC and UCLA. They got the $100 million in joining the Big Ten with the TV payout, and they were doing it for football. They don't care about all the other sports. Football is the biggest driver of revenue for college athletics. And so what's going to happen is, and a lot of schools have already put out what their percentages are going to be per sport of the revenue sharing that they get. And again, not every school is going to have $20 million worth of revenue that they get to split with their players. They can share up to $20 million and a percentage of the revenue sharing. So schools like local schools in town, it's going to depend on your TV contract. If San Diego State only gets $10 million in their next TV contract, which I thought that was coming out soon, haven't heard anything more on that with the new Pac-12, then they obviously can't share $20 million in the revenue. Now, I don't know if it's just TV revenue, if there's other revenue sources as well, but I find it hard to believe that every school is going to have the same in that particular case. But it's capped at $20.5 million for year one. And so what schools are doing, especially the big schools that can pass it around, they're spending about $13, $14 million on football. And then they're going to go, maybe $4 million on college basketball, men's college basketball, and then a couple million on women's basketball. And then and then spread a couple $100,000 to a bunch of the different programs. And every school right now is finding a problem in the sense that all of their coaches continue to ask for a bigger piece of the pie where football is going to be the driving force. These Power 4 schools that can get up to $20 million to their student athletes are worried about mid-majors being able to upend their basketball in a sense of paying more to their college basketball programs because they don't have football. During the NCAA tournament's opening weekend, 5 power conference teams punched their proverbial tickets to the Sweet 16 with wins over so-called mid-majors. These would be some so-called mid-majors, by the way. Florida survived the scare from two-time defending national champion UConn. I would consider UConn basketball kind of a power. I would really consider the Big East kind of a power as well. But in reality, it is technically a mid-major. Auburn outlasted Creighton out of the Big East. Arkansas upset St. John's out of the Big East. Alabama cruised past St. Mary's of the West Coast Conference, and Houston beat Gonzaga. By most accounts, 4 of those 5 Power League programs spent more on their rosters than their mid-major opponents, in some cases by as much as $2 million. The outlier is UConn, who outspent Florida. But what schools are worried about, especially in the power conferences, the mid-majors could be the ones outspending the power schools with their basketball budgets. This is a quote from Nina King, which is the Duke athletic director. In the Big East, their basketball revenue share portion will be a lot more than what those of us can do who have Division I power football programs. As the college athletics industry sits on the brink of historic change, schools can share revenue directly with athletes starting this summer. Mark Ziegler mentioned that in his interview with Gwen and Chris about how a lot of schools are trying to go through their collective and spend all this money because they technically have it in the future. They want to eliminate boosters being able to pay college athletes. They want to just have it with the revenue sharing. Mid-major programs operating without having to invest in a power conference football team are expected to, in some cases, outspend their football-focused big brothers in men's basketball. The spending issue looms as serious enough threat that it has emerged as a critical discussion point and agenda item within the Power League administrative meetings in the SEC, Big Ten, ACC, and Big 12, something SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey and other high-ranking officials acknowledged this month in interviews with Yahoo Sports. There's a full article on this on Ross Dellinger that he put out that I'm picking a couple of spots from, but it goes into way more detail with way more interviews and everything like that. As NCAA tournament's second weekend arrives, the potential spending disparity is at the forefront of many minds. Here's a quote from Greg Sankey, who is the commissioner of the SEC, the most powerful conference in all of college athletics. People have raised the issue with me, and they are raising it more frequently right now. It's something we are having conversations about after every meeting. I'm confident in our school's ability to compete, but it does raise a set of questions. Wait a minute. Now all of a sudden it's a problem spending money when you're getting outspent because you're not the biggest fish in the pond. All of a sudden, it's a problem now. Oh, this is raising concerns. We can't have Xavier outspending us in the SEC. Here's the new college sports revenue sharing rules I briefly talked about. Under college sports new revenue sharing rules, schools will be permitted to distribute a pool of revenue to athletes up to an annual escalating cap of $20.5 million in year one. Power League programs are gearing up to spend the majority of that revenue pool allotment, as much as $13 to $16 million, on their revenue-generating giant of football, a move to remain competitive in the industry's self-proclaimed cash cow. For most programs, that leaves roughly $2 million to $4 million to be directly shared with men's basketball. But for fellow Division I schools without a football program or one that competes in FCS or even at the Group of Six level, flexibility exists to heavily invest in a singular sport with the goal of qualifying and winning one of America's most popular events, the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Big East schools, quote from the Houston Athletic Director, Eddie Nunez, Big East schools next year can pay $6 million or more to their basketball team, and that's a game changer. As many as a dozen non-power league Division I schools, many of them in the Big East, are planning to spend at least $5 million on their men's basketball roster next year, with a smaller group hoping to reach the $6 million and $7 million marks. Those with knowledge of the plans told Yahoo Sports. As mentioned in the Mark Ziegler interview on Gwynn and Chris, he said that they had about $2 million for San Diego State basketball. Around there. A guy like Magoon Gwath can get $1.7 million in the portal. If you're San Diego State, how are you actually going to allot the money here? They obviously they've already said they have opted into the house settlement. But if you got schools like in the Big East that are spending upwards to $6 to $7 million. Now, again, I don't know if San Diego State's going to have the full $20 million. That's just the cap. And there's a lot of schools that obviously can go above that, but that's going to be the cap right now. If you're San Diego State, are you going to invest? Obviously, you spent a lot of money in building a football stadium, acquiring the land in order to do so. Didn't get yourself in a power conference. Are you going to spend the money on football, or should you spend it on men's basketball? I mean, at this point, with the Pac-12, new Pac-12 conference, I mean, a major advantage to Gonzaga in the same conference, right? With the revenue sharing. Gonzaga is going to be able to put all the resources in the new Pac-12 into men's basketball. So not only do you have like the Big East that are outspending SEC schools, you're going to have a team in your own conference that doesn't have football, that's going to get a full share of whatever your new TV contract is, that is going to be able to put more of those resources into their men's basketball team than you are because they don't have football. You're already looking up to Gonzaga in the standings. They're going to be able to outspend you in recruiting to an extent. So San Diego State has an interesting dilemma here. Now, here's the other question I have, and I don't know the answer to this. Again, I'm an independent contractor with USD, so I don't know what their plans are, nor do I have any ability to speak on it, but they're in the Pioneer League for football. The Pioneer League is non-scholarship football. Is the Pioneer League even going to allow revenue sharing, even though USD has opted into the house settlement? If you're the University of San Diego, you're going to be able to pump as much money into basketball since you don't have to worry about football if it's non-scholarship. That's an interesting question. UCSD is the other school in town. They don't have football. I haven't heard that. I think they announced with Earl Edwards that they're going to opt into the house settlement. I don't know for sure, so don't quote me on that. But if they do, whatever amount of revenue that they get in the Big West Conference, which might not be a lot, they can put all into their men's basketball program as well. So if you're San Diego State, I mean, the question to me is not whether or not you keep football. I think there's a lot of value to having a football program. You just built a brand new stadium as well, so you have to obviously account for that. That's not the question. The question is, are you going to put, let's say San Diego State has the full $20.5 million. If you're the Aztecs for football, you're going to be able to compete in the Pac-12 with not having to spend that kind of money. It's not like you're really trying to trade blows with the SEC schools that are going to be spending 13, 14 millions on their teams. Could you give more to basketball? Does it make more sense for San Diego State to give more of the revenue sharing to basketball? I think it does. Now, they still have these collectives in NIL, and they're trying to have boosters pay these student athletes directly, but they still have these programs. And they're still going to be like all these big schools are going to have the revenue sharing plus additional NIL because NIL is not factored into this. But if you know what the top schools are going to spend on their basketball programs in the Big East, why not match that if you're San Diego State and not spend as much on the football program? And especially with basketball, it doesn't take a lot of players to be one of the top teams in the NCAA tournament. The most common formula that Yahoo Sports is reporting, in which they are seeing 70 to 85% of the big pie of the cap is going to go to football. 10 to 20% is going to go to men's basketball. The final 10 to 15% to other sports. The distribution formula is generating strife among the school's own coaches, each arguing for more of the revenue share pie, especially those at blue blood basketball programs such as Duke, Kansas, and North Carolina. At a place where football matters, this is Kansas Athletic Director Travis Goff, we can't justify $7 to $9 million to be shared with basketball. This is Kansas, which has been one of the best college basketball programs in the country. He goes, again, quote, at a place where football matters, we can't justify $7 to $9 million to be shared with basketball. But we do think we have some innate advantages at Kansas: coaching, culture, institutional brand, fan base, facilities. They will all move the needle. $7 to $9 million they cannot share with basketball. What about Duke? We mentioned King earlier, Nina King, who's the athletic director at Duke. She goes on to say, she's trying to juggle 3 programs that are generating positive momentum. Football program has won at least 8 games, 3 consecutive seasons. Men's and women's basketball both advanced to the Sweet 16 as number 1 and 2 seeds, respectively. All 3 head coaches at Duke of those programs have made compromises on the revenue share requests. It's been a delicate balancing act. It's a very interesting development. We continue to get more interesting develops with college athletics. With the basketball programs and schools that don't have football are going to benefit the most from basketball. Title IX is not affected by this, as asked into the chat. The old administration, I don't like talking politics on sports show, but the old administration was going to use Title IX against this. The new administration is not going to. So Title IX is not going to be a factor in this revenue sharing. They can give 20%, they could give, 14 to 15, 20% to football and not have to worry about balancing it out with women's basketball or some of the women's sports. It's an interesting topic, an interesting conversation. I think it's a way for San Diego State basketball to be relatively in a lot of the conversations in the future. But that being said, it goes back to how important it was to try to get yourself in a power conference when you had the opportunity. And whether or not it was that close or not, and we've seen the rumors about the connections that the Big 12 had with the Aztecs, you needed to be in one of those conferences. You almost needed to be like an SMU and get yourself in one of those conferences without TV revenue, and then hope that you're position yourself where you will get a contract eventually, like SMU is doing. Now, they're a little bit different, the private school, but still. Fun stuff. I'm Braden Surprenant. Thanks again for tuning in to the Braden Surprenant Show. We'll be live at Baja Rick's tomorrow, opening day, all Padres talk tomorrow and Friday. Look forward to it. Thanks again for making our day a part of yours. Gwen and Chris coming up next. Final show before opening day on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.